KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We have a huge lineup today. We're going to talk about the decision which has been made on what to do with the old Bees ballpark after the team leaves Salt Lake City. We've also gotten word that more and more Republicans want to be the next president of the United States. And the debt ceiling agreement, wow, that just sailed through the House last night. Just sailed on through.
Bipartisan support, and Republicans are furious about it. It's 9:08. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here are three things Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
I really like how House Speaker Kevin McCarthy characterized the vote after it happened. I mean, 314 in favor, 117 against. This is a huge win for him. I do think we need to hand it to him. I mean, here's the guy who struggled to get enough votes to become the speaker. And last night, he gets the big win.
This is fabulous. This is one of the best nights I've ever been here. I thought it would be hard. I thought it'd be almost impossible just to get to 218. Now I found there's a whole new day here. We've woken them up. Maybe they listen to our speeches. I don't know. We can't keep doing the same thing to solve the problem. We have to think differently. And we can't do it with just one party. We are all in this together.
What he really wanted was unanimous Republican support and unanimous Democratic support. Well, he didn't get either, but he got enough Democrats to come over and support this plan to make it pass. But remember, folks, it does not pass. There's no way this passes without Democratic support and massive Democratic support.
Countdown. 2.
Boy, those House Republicans, there are a lot of them who were pretty vocal about killing that debt ceiling bill. And if you look at the numbers, you might be impressed that 71 Republicans ended up voting against it. But, full stop, hold on. Republican Representative Blake Moore called into KSL at night last night as the vote was happening, and there's a lot more to the story. Let's listen to what he said.
Here's something funny about this place, and I've said it several times today. I said I'll never understand this place, but it is so predictable. You saw about 40 no votes on the Republican side until the vote total got to 218, and then all of a sudden there were more no votes going for the Republicans. That's a little frustrating because it's like, oh, I'm going to hope yes. I don't want default, but this is a safe place for me to be, and I won't take heed in this in my next primary, and I'm going to vote no after I know that it already passed.
That's a great point. Like, once it passed, then everybody is standing on their morals and what they believe in. But they all wanted to make sure that it passed first.
Launch. Countdown. 1.
All right, so what does this legislation do? Well, it raises the debt ceiling for 2 years, and it avoids this coming Monday's default on America's bills. But we're not done yet. It has to get through the Senate. And Utah Senator Mike Lee is making the rounds on the national news scene. It doesn't sound like it's going to get his vote.
It doesn't mean we should pass this just because this happens to be on the table. Just because it's here doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Okay, if not this one, then what? Is there a chance that this could be changed or manipulated enough in the Senate to get Mike Lee's vote? There's no way.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The launch.
Commence.
And
The U.S. debt ceiling. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio.
I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. I don't think it will matter what Utah Senator Mike Lee decides to do with this. I think it's going to have enough votes, enough support to get through the Senate. If you look at the raw vote totals from last night, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, it sailed through the House. You had 314 in favor, 117 against. And we're going to get into the gritty details brought to us by Representative Blake Moore of Utah, who was actually live on the air with KSL at night as the vote wrapped up. But first, I really want to talk about Senator Mike Lee. He was on Fox and Friends this morning.
If this bill did what its lead advocates claimed that it did, I'd be thrilled to vote for it, but it doesn't. In case after case, the cuts that it proposes won't materialize.
Remember, it was Mike Lee that got 43 Republican senators to write a letter, sign a letter, send it to the president saying that we will not pass anything in the Senate that doesn't have dramatic spending cuts. We'll see how many of those 43 senators stick with Mike Lee.
Okay, so let's rewind a few days. And Republican Representative Chip Roy out of Texas was kind of the Mike Lee of the House, remember?
We're just barreling towards an infinite amount of debt, and we've got to stop that. My constituents at home do not want that, so I'm going to be making that loud and clear to my Republican colleagues that this is not a deal that we should be taking.
All right, but a lot of his Republican colleagues ended up voting in favor of the legislation last night. I think that's going to happen to Senator Lee as well once the Senate takes a vote. But again, he was on Fox and Friends this morning pitching his no vote.
This thing doesn't do what they claim that it does, and that's my biggest problem with it. And it puts the American people in a very disadvantageous position relative to their government. We need to try to stop it, and we need to try to improve it. And if we can't improve it, go back to the drawing board.
Lee's wanted deeper cuts. If you follow him on Twitter, there is a series of tweets talking about why Republicans should kill this bill, that it doesn't go nearly far enough, that Democrats are basically taking a victory lap right now. So excited that this passed.
All right, but he also tweeted calling those 71 Republicans in the House who voted against the bill, who tried to kill the bill, he called them heroic. But we know there's a different story. There's another story behind it, thanks to the phone call that we got last night from Representative Blake Moore. And we'll hear from him in 3 minutes.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Enjoy Jeff Kaplan later today driving home.
You'll have important news updates like you'd expect.
Plus Jeff's trademark Minute of News twice an hour.
Try him today between 3 and 7 on KSL News Radio.
It's a shakeup of the Utah delegation to Washington.
Congressman Chris Stewart deciding to step down. The governor has to announce a special election schedule.
The seat will soon be vacant. This all sets the stage for a special election and new member of Congress. We're updating the story as it happens on KSL News Radio.
On the line with Dr. Jason Hunziker with Huntsman Mental Health. Doc, us guys sometimes have a harder time opening up about our mental health issues. I mean, it could be depression, anxiety, or other problems. Maybe because it's not necessarily a guy thing to do. That's why it is so important to normalize taking care of our mental health as well as physical.
That's correct. Men tend to feel like they need to be strong and powerful, and that somehow mental health shows a weakness, which is not true. I think it's really important for the people in the life of the person that they're concerned about is just to encourage awareness, to talk about it, make it an open conversation all of the time, so it normalizes mental health issues and that they don't get ignored.
Shouldn't be as much of an intervention as just kind of a casual opening up.
That's right, and just make a safe space, right? I mean, we want to have a place where people can get together and just talk about what's going on without any judgment and without any hint that we are trying to say that they are broken or flawed. But the fact that they're coming and saying, hey, I have a problem, that should be actually honored and say, wow, that shows a lot of strength. Recognizing when you're hurting and realizing that you need someone to help you.
Where is a good place to go for information and support?
If you're really struggling, you want to call 988. You want to get on the crisis line there and see what they can do for you and see if they can help you. We have a phone number as well, 801-583-2500 at Huntsman Mental Health Institute, that we can listen and direct you to where you need to go. You can also get on our website, hmhi.utah.edu, which will give you a lot of resources. Let's not forget about primary care providers. They are the front of all of this, and they are awesome and can definitely help direct where you need to be next.
Fantastic information. All right, Dr. Jason Hunziker from Huntsman Mental Health, thanks for chatting today.
Get updates on Jazz and BYU news and score updates. Text Jazz or BYU at the Cyprus Credit Union KSL text line, 57500.
When making important life decisions about your financial future or insurance needs, it's important to work with people you trust. That's why at Farm Bureau Financial Services, we don't rely on algorithms, bots, or auto-generated answers. We get to know you so we can help you get the right coverage and make smart financial decisions. We're the people who provide insurance and financial planning all in one place. Find a Farm Bureau agent or advisor at fbfs.com/protect. It's your future. Let's protect it.
Expand your business capabilities as you expand your business with Mountain America. From part-time entrepreneur to global enterprise, choose a credit union that can keep up with your growing company, no matter the size. Visit macu.com/business to explore our array of business banking, lending, and service solutions and experience the attentive, personalized service of a local credit union. Mountain America can handle all your business needs. Loans on approved credit. Membership required based on eligibility.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, 10,000 new affordable housing units could come to Salt Lake City, all depending on the vote of city officials. Second, a wave of Utah officials announced their interest in running to fill Republican Congressman Chris Stewart's position. And third, the House passed a bill to suspend the nation's debt limit through 2025. Going to look for a high today of 79 degrees. Right now in Salt Lake City, it is 64. Back now to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The U.S. debt ceiling. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio.
It was overwhelming. It just sailed through the House of Representatives last night, agreeing to raise the debt ceiling to avoid default on paying our bills. And today it's on to the Senate. Senator Mike Lee tweeted that some 71 Republicans in the House who attempted to kill it, they voted against the bill. He called them heroic on Twitter. Wow. Thanks to a live call from into KSL at night from Representative Blake Moore right after he voted last night. We have a lot more insight on what was at play.
Here's something funny about this place, and I've said it several times today. I said I'll never understand this place, but it is so predictable. You saw about 40 no votes on the Republican side until the vote total got to 218, and then all of a sudden there were more no votes going for the Republicans. That's a little frustrating because it's like, oh, I'm going to hope yes. I don't want default, but this is a safe place for me to be, and I won't take heed in this in my next primary, and I'm going to vote no after I know that it already passed.
So was this as bad a loss for the Republicans as Mike Lee is making it out to be? Because the hopes, the dreams, the bill that they had passed to raise the debt ceiling before, they got basically nothing, very little comparatively speaking from what they wanted. But that happens in negotiations. You don't get your wish list.
Yeah, and they didn't get a lot of what Republicans wanted at the end of the day. But here's how House Speaker Kevin McCarthy framed the vote last night.
This is fabulous. This is one of the best nights I've ever been here. I thought it would be hard. I thought it'd be almost impossible just to get to 218. Now I found there's a whole new day here. We've woken them up. Maybe they listen to our speeches. I don't know. We can't keep doing the same thing to solve the problem. We have to think differently. And we can't do it with just one party. We are all in this together.
I would love if that is the case. He is so optimistic. He's certainly taking it as some great bipartisan support. Is this a one-time deal? Is this the only bill out there that can get bipartisan support?
I look at this as a win for Speaker McCarthy. Here's the man who, just was taking it in the teeth to become Speaker.
15 rounds of no's or 14 rounds of no's before a yes.
He really did become the joke of the internet. He was just scraping along, trying to become Speaker. He owned the message for this bill. I thought he did a much better job messaging than the White House did. I also feel as though this is not only a win for him, this is a win for bipartisanship. Let's look at the raw numbers. 165 Democrats said yes to this legislation. Only 46 said no. And 149 Republicans said yes. And we now know, thanks to Representative Blake Moore, who told us here at KSL News Radio, that it's almost like That's a number that they really wouldn't probably have gotten to if Republicans were voting their conscience and they weren't voting to stay in a safe space. Derek Brown, good morning.
Good morning. And Debbie, I think you're right. I mean, the reality is the Republicans needed 218 votes, and McCarthy got 314. I mean, so if his goal was to get something bipartisan, he did it. The best legislation, and we see this here in Utah, the state legislature as well, the best legislation, unfortunately, tends to be the kind of legislation where everyone walks away grumbling. And I think that's exactly what we had here. No one is thrilled, and everyone is grumbling just a little. And sometimes in D.C., that is what a victory looks like.
I found it interesting, though. I saw this quote from Democrat Brad Sherman in the House. He said, "Oh, now we're allowed to say it? We rolled them. We rolled them." And that's exactly what Mike Lee is saying, is the Republicans had to give up far more than they should have.
Well, and that may be the case, but I think if you're looking at who rolled who, I mean, from the very beginning, the Biden administration said, we want a quote-unquote clean bill. Just increase the debt ceiling, nothing beyond that. And that's what we're doing. And in the end, that is not what happened. And there were certain things that the Republicans were able to secure in terms of concessions and inflation reduction, inflation adjustments. I mean, one of the things, I've always been a little bugged by the fact that they passed an $80 billion increase to the IRS. Rather than simplifying an already crazy tax code, they just passed, $80+ billion to hire, new auditors, and they pared that back by about $20 billion. I mean, that's just one example of things that were changed. But so in terms of the win, I think this one seems to be McCarthy's. So he's shown that he can cut big deals and that he can move bipartisan legislation. But the trouble he has now is I think he has some soured relationships in his caucus, and so he's going to have to manage that going forward.
Derek Brown is a host of KSL at Night. He's also former lawmaker here in Utah. We don't give you enough credit for that, Derek. And also as well, the former chair of the Utah Republican Party. I'm so glad you could be with us this morning as we analyze the debt ceiling bill that just sailed through the House last night. 314 yes votes, well above the 218 that Speaker McCarthy needed to get this bill passed. And now it's on to the Senate. And, Senator Mike Lee, he's already making the rounds this morning on national news platforms. Let me just play a little bit of what he told Fox and Friends this morning.
This thing doesn't do what they claim that it does, and that's my biggest problem with it. And it puts the American people in a very disadvantageous position relative to their government. We need to try to stop it, and we try to improve it. And if we can't improve it, go back to the drawing board.
Derek, hinting at that he's a no vote. I think we've all pretty much feel like he's going to be a no vote. But I don't really think at the end of the day his vote is going to matter that much in the when it comes to the total. I mean, I think this is going to get past the Senate, much like in the same fashion that it got through the House. What do you think?
It will, and the reality is one of Senator Lee's, I think he views himself as someone who raises these alarm bells. And when you've got a debt of about approaching $32 trillion, I mean, the reality is we can't go on forever and ever just raising the debt ceiling every time we get to that point. And so I think he views himself as someone whose job is to raise those alarm bells. But I think when push comes to shove, I think we're going to see something similar in the Senate. And we've always joked about the fact that you don't get hit by a bus that you see coming 2 miles away. And we've always known at some point, this debt ceiling was going to be raised. We know that. The question is, were there going to be concessions or not? The Democrats said no concessions. The Republicans said we want concessions. In the end, there are concessions. And so I think at least this one looks like a McCarthy victory. But Debbie, you're right. I think when this gets to the Senate, I think this goes through, and we've effectively kicked the can down the road for another, 2 years? 2 years.
Another 2 years. Okay, so final question for you. is this the beginning of a beautiful friendship? Or is this a one-night stand where everyone wakes up the next morning, they regret it?
Oh, that's a funny analogy. I think that the days of 314 votes, majority in the House of Representatives, are pretty slim. I doubt you'll see that again. I mean, my guess is you're going to have these razor-thin margins. I mean, we've got, the Republicans only have a 4 or 5 vote majority, which is why having Congressman Stewart step down at this point in time, I think maybe giving some in D.C. a heartburn as well. So I'd love to think that we can get more 300-plus vote, majority type bills in the House of Representatives, but I'm not optimistic.
You think it was a one-night stand?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Just to be clear, I don't disagree with you. I think that's exactly what it was. I think everybody's going to wake up and think, oh, man, did we really do that? Yeah, everyone worked together. They could either move forward and continue this path, but my guess is everyone is going to run away from this relationship. Derek, thanks for joining us.
Derek, totally agree with you on, we got to stop spending. I think Senator Lee made that. Is it the drunken sailors?
Yeah.
Okay. He made he made that connection not too long ago.
He said he gives drunken sailors a bad name.
The time to do it is now. It's not 2 years from now when we run up against another debt ceiling crisis and America, is on the brink of default, which would be an embarrassment in front of the entire world and would clearly impact, the stock market. It would impact the economy. It could potentially impact jobs. Now is the time to get to work on that. This last minute stuff, it just doesn't work for the rest of us.
You are so right. You are so right. This is not the time to fight this fight. The time to fight it is when you're appropriating funds in the first place. And that will come up in September when they've got to figure out where all this money is going. That's when you decide to scale back. Not after we've already voted yes on all this spending. We've got to do it at budget time, not on bill due time.
Straight ahead, 2 more Republicans announce that they're going to run for president of the United States. The GOP field right now has more than enough to field a baseball team, right? A baseball team.
Not an exaggeration, Deb.
I know.
Legit. There's 9 right now.
I don't think this is a wise strategy for the GOP.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes. Let's take a look at some of our top stories this hour. Lagoon's newest ride is still a work in progress.
Onlookers can already see a fully formed mountain-shaped structure housing the ride called Primordial. Green rails can be seen spiraling in and out of the gray, jagged peaks. Construction on the ride started 5 years ago. The amusement park dropped a trailer for the ride featuring ancient-looking gold lettering, flames, and soaring dragons last November. So far, park officials tell the Standard Examiner the ride should open this year, but they haven't shared much beyond that, even with the busy summer season at their doorstep. Kate Davis, KSL News Radio.
A new report is shedding light on where people are moving to Utah from. Here's KSL News Radio's Adam Small.
California is still bringing in the most new move-ins overall, but none of the Golden State's metro areas were the most common place people were moving in from between 2015 and 2019. According to the report from the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute, that place was Las Vegas, followed by Phoenix, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Rexburg, Idaho. Phoenix was also the most common place Utahns moved to, actually taking in more Utahns than it lost per year. The report estimates Utah took in over 120,000 new people per year. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News: retail theft getting more organized and widespread, resulting in the loss of millions of dollars.
Brazen thefts, masked men marching through stores, loading shopping carts and walking out, threatening security guards with their lives if they try to stop them. It's being called organized retail crime, and Home Depot is one store saying it's reached unprecedented levels, growing by double digits. Much of the stolen merchandise sold online in places like eBay, Amazon, and Facebook Marketplace. The Department of Homeland Security has established ties between organized retail theft and dangerous groups like the Aryan Brotherhood, Eastern European and South American crime rings, and terrorist financing networks, and is asking consumers to be cautious when buying online. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Coming up, it may be sunny right now, but that's going to change. About a 50-50 chance of rain later today. We'll check your full forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 9:33.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
Hey, folks, let me tell you, I've had a Kinetico water softener for a long time. I never have to think about it. It just works. I love those things in my life, especially since I have to now replace a hot water heater. So, you know, I hate dealing with these things. It's why when I look at the 10-year warranty that Kinetico offers on their water softeners, I just love them for it because it tells me they have total confidence in their product. If I have an issue, they'll come out, they'll take care of it. I can even move homes, take my water softener with me. They're still going to honor that warranty. Who does that? What a great business model. And if you're wondering, well, Dave just loves it because they gave him a free one. No, I got one. I paid the same price as you guys did. We had to make the same discussion or have the same discussion in our family. Is it worth the investment? Is this something that we need? And for our family, the biggie was dry skin. Soft water is fantastic for dry skin here in Utah. Boy, do we battle that, especially in the hot days of summer. So if you're interested, give Kinetico of Utah a call, 801-576-8600. That's 801-576-8600. Or check them out online at softwaterutah.com.
It's springtime in the Rockies, and it's time to apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment. A Revive treatment with fertilization, aeration, and good watering is the key to building stronger roots for a healthy, lush green lawn. Revive fertilizes and moves water and nutrients deeper into the soil. Take advantage of spring storms with an application of Revive now. Protect yourself from drought later this summer and skyrocketing water costs. With Revive, if you water 2 times a week, it's like watering 4. Apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment today. It works.
It doesn't get better than summer camping in Utah, and it doesn't get any bigger than the Utah Summer RV Palooza, presented by Bish's RV. We're bringing the biggest RV show in the region to Layton, June 8th through the 10th, for 3 days only. The Layton Hills Mall is where you'll find a massive selection of top RV brands like Go Play, Ember RV, Forest River, Northwood, and a whole lot more. Get up to 20% below cost on select new 2022 RVs, and get 90 days no payments on approved credit for all play and no pay till September OAC. Summer RV Palooza is where you'll find a brand new 26 BH travel trailer. It's high quality at an undeniable value at a sale price of only $19,995. The selection is huge, and so are the trade-in offers. Get max value for your current RV when you trade in at the show. Shop the Summer RV Palooza now at bishes.com/Utah RV Palooza. 3 days only, June 8th through the 10th at the Layton Hills Mall. Sponsored by Bish's RV.
Traffic and weather together again, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Heather Kelly still in the traffic center.
And we've got a good drive right now all across the Wasatch Front. No delays I-15 throughout Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, and Weber counties. The east and west side belt routes are in good shape. No accidents reported right now on city streets or major freeways, but you do have construction slowing you down on US 40 out in Summit County, and that's heading southbound as you head toward Jordanelle Reservoir. Fat Cats in Bluffdale now open. Bring the family and enjoy movies, bowling, food, arcades, and more. Fat Cats is the best place for family fun. Fat Cats Bluffdale, 13901 South Redwood Road. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Thunderstorms developing this evening. Might be here early in the afternoon from the looks of this radar. That'll continue the next couple of days. Expect those scattered rain showers this weekend, too, with highs in the upper 70s. Right now, 68 degrees with all that sunshine at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
We know that President Biden is officially running for a second term as a Democrat. So who will end up facing off against him for president on the Republican side? And that list is growing. Okay, so here's who has officially entered the race.
Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Ryan Binkley, Larry Elder, Asa Hutchinson, Perry Johnson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott.
That's Is that your voice? Hold on a second.
Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Ryan Binkley, Larry Elder, Asa Hutchinson, Perry Johnson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tim Scott.
I said it in normal speed, and it took me 12 seconds. So I had to speed it up a little bit.
That is enough to field a baseball team compared to the Democrats who don't even have enough players right now to field an infield. Like, you got one at first, you got one at second, you got one at third, and then
they could play like singles tennis. That's who they have.
There is an even longer list of GOP maybes.
Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Doug Burgum, Kristi Noem, Mike Rogers, Chris Sununu, Greg Abbott, Marco Rubio, Glenn Youngkin.
My goodness.
I knew like half those names.
Stop it.
Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Doug Burgum, Kristi Noem, Mike Rogers, Chris Sununu, Greg Abbott, Marco Rubio, Glenn Youngkin.
Okay, let's talk. You want to talk about the maybes?
Yeah. We're going to break down the maybes. We've talked about the guys and the gals that are already in, so we'll break down the maybes. But, Deb, have you ever been to the Cheesecake Factory?
Oh, yes.
How would you describe the menu?
It's the Bible of all menus.
It is the Bible.
I would say as I open it up and I flip through page after page after laminated page, it becomes the roadmap for my indecisiveness.
Okay.
There's too many choices.
Okay. Do you see where I'm going right now? Because options are good until there's too many. And then you just order the shrimp scampi like you do every other time. You have a million options and you get the shrimp scampi. As soon as there's too many options, you just order what you like. You may love something more, but it's scary to order something new because you might hate it. At least with the shrimp scampi, you may not love it, but you know you don't hate it. And I'm afraid that the GOP race is becoming the Cheesecake Factory menu. With the maybes and the people that have already announced, you could field 2 baseball teams, Deb. 2 baseball teams. So what I'm afraid is we're going to end up with the shrimp scampi of candidates, Donald Trump. The one, you don't love, but, maybe you don't hate it.
Interesting. What an analysis.
How about that
was.
metaphor?
Let's talk Chris Christie.
Okay.
Former governor of New Jersey.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes you have to be brave enough to try something different. And he's been very outspoken against President Trump. Not always. He was once on Team Trump.
Yeah, he was one of Trump's guys early on. Chris Christie led the transition team when Trump first took office. So he was the one that was responsible for filling the cabinet positions and making sure everyone was in place. And then Trump basically just blew up his entire plan and threw in a bunch of his own guys and kicked Christie out.
I don't know a lot about Chris Christie other than what I've seen on television. He gives his analysis, and I don't really know what he did as governor of New Jersey. I haven't analyzed that. But MSNBC headlines, why Chris Christie could be good for America.
Yeah, and part of the reason they thought he would be good for America is because he's known as a fighter. And in this opinion piece, they said that he could be the Trump slayer. And it reminded me of a time in the GOP primary back in 2016 when he basically ended Marco Rubio's chances when he said this.
When you're president of the United States, when you're a governor of a state, the memorized 30-second speech where you talk about how great America is at the end of it doesn't solve one problem for one person. They expect you to plow the snow. They expect you to get the schools open. And when the worst natural disaster in your state's history hits you, they expect you to rebuild their state, which is what I've done. None of that stuff happens on the floor of the United States Senate. It's a fine job. I'm glad you ran for it. But it does not prepare you for president of the United States.
And even Marco Rubio said that exchange with Chris Christie probably ended his presidential chances. So he's very charismatic.
For the GOP nomination for president of the United States, you know some of the names already. Donald Trump is a definite yes. He announced quite some time ago, like a year ago, not quite a year ago, 6 months ago. Nikki Haley, former UN ambassador, she announced on Valentine's Day. Senator Tim Scott, he's already announced. He announced, in fact, we took his announcement live just a couple of weeks ago. So, there's a list of yeses, and then there's a list of maybes. Mike Pence is on that list, but it sounds like they've already announced that they're going to announce the announcement next week in Iowa. And our very own Boyd Matheson had this exclusive meeting with former Vice President Mike Pence just a few weeks ago.
But if the American people were ever to call me at a service, I think I'd spend a little less time talking to Congress and a lot more time talking to the American people.
I found it interesting in a political piece. It was talking about Mike Pence and said that he would be one of Trump's loudest critics. And I thought, boy, that would surprise me, because he hasn't been one of his harshest critics. He's certainly said some things, but he's not going after the former president. He's kind of stayed above some of that fray. But they say for him to win, he basically just has to survive. That a lot of the battling that goes on, it would almost be a war of attrition for him to win. Like, you guys got to beat each other up, and if I'm the last man standing.
I think Vice President Pence has to stay away from the January 6th discussion as much as possible. I think he has to stay away from talking about his former boss as much as possible. He has to tell us how he's going to lead the country, how he will stand out from the rest of the candidates. He can't get sucked in to that abyss. Otherwise, he'll lose his way almost right away.
Well, he was kind of the heroic one on January 6th.
Leave it in the past.
You should always leave stuff in the past. I mean, I kind of get that, but the fact is that is one of the things that Mike Pence is known for, is when the president was telling him to do one thing and he said, no, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do my job despite what my boss is saying. I thought that was one of the bravest moments and definitely a win. But you're right. When you rehash the past, you're not talking about the future. And all we care about is the future.
You know, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is supposed to be the man to beat out President Trump for the GOP nomination. And it was a week ago when he made his disastrous announcement that he's running for president of the United States on Twitter. And it was all systems no-go during that announcement. So it's been a week. Has he been able to recover since? Next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
As we get back to normal these days, get your morning back to normal.
We're Tim and Amanda, longtime KSL News host.
For news, for updated weather, we invite you back.
Mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
When they're investigating, we can't stop watching. This month on BritBox, sit back, relax, and enjoy watching the detectives. Discover Britain's most bingeable mysteries, including the brand new season of Grace, the hit series based on the books by best-selling author Peter James. Unwind with the detectives you could watch all night long. Stream them all now exclusively on BritBox. Endlessly intriguing. Start your free trial at BritBox.com.
Hello there, my name is Seychelle, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is the punch of flavors that's unlike any other. You get the crispy tenderness of the chicken and that hint of sourness from the pickles. Ta-da!
Hey, I'm Juan, and what makes the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich original to me is you're gonna get chicken that's crispy, golden, and juicy. This is the gold standard of chicken sandwiches.
Order the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real customers paid for their testimonials.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Men, you fought hard for the role that you play in your children's lives. This Father's Day, Cordell & Cordell celebrates you the entire month of June. Join us every Friday for our live webinar series, Father's Fridays. There you'll receive much useful information from our panel of speakers. To register, go to CordellCordell.com/Father's Day.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Salt Lake City area attorneys. 910 West Legacy Center Way, Suite 120, Midvale, Utah, 84047.
When they're investigating, we can't stop watching. This month on BritBox, sit back, relax, and enjoy watching the detectives. Discover Britain's most bingeable mysteries, including the brand new season of Grace, the hit series based on the books by best-selling author Peter James. Unwind with the detectives you could watch all night long. Stream them all now exclusively on BritBox. Endlessly intriguing. Start your free trial at BritBox.com.
Smart, connected, modern. Discover life-enhancing independent living services at Trio Orem. Joy isn't just for the young, it's for the young at heart. Trio's signature programs provide a unique approach to wellness, bringing living well and well-being to life. Trio is reimagining retirement to deliver delight in every detail. To learn more, contact Trio Orem at 801-434-8000 or visit treeorem.com.
Hey, losing weight, it can be a tricky process for a lot of people. It's a big struggle, and we know the challenge with everyone. That's why Soda Weight Loss is so incredible, because it's a program that's based on science. If you follow the program, you will drop those unwanted fat pounds. Guys drop 3 to 5 pounds a week. Women drop 2 to 3 pounds, and it's simply by following the program. It's all about nutrition if you want to drop that weight, and it's healthy. It's specifically designed for you. You're going to work with a nutritionist that will work with you. They've had over 5,000 people on their website who have had tremendous success. I've had tremendous success. Alex has had tremendous success. A lot of people here in our radio group have just done remarkable, and you can too. It's that simple. You're going to have someone you're accountable to, who you check in with, and it's not just about losing it. It's about keeping it off after. It's a lifetime commitment, a lifetime program. You can get healthy, I promise you. Check out sodaweightloss.com.
Lowe's knows the value of quality paint for pros. That's why starting on June 5th, Pro Paint Days are coming to Lowe's. Shop special savings on the products you need for all your paint jobs. Plus, MVP's members can take advantage of an additional limited time only paint offer when you shop Valspar and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams. Join the Pro MVP's Rewards program today. Offers valid 6/5 to 6/16. Exclusions, restrictions, and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/L/Pro Loyalty Terms. Subject to change.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, health officials are trying to get in contact with people who may have been attacked by a bat. Second, the debt ceiling bill is now in the hands of the Senate after the House finally reached a compromise. And third, search and rescue crews are dealing with 10 times the amount of calls this season than they have in past years. We're going to look for a high today of 78 degrees, and right now in Salt Lake City, it's 68. Let's get you back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
It's been one whole week since Governor Ron DeSantis made that glitchy, disastrous, technologically destructive, buggy, clumsy Twitter announcement that he was running for president. It's horrible.
Now it's quiet. Might have surprised many, but not those of us who've known and worked with Elon for nearly a quarter century. His commitment to freedom and his willingness to put his money where
after they got done talking about Elon Musk and working out the technical glitches, which took almost a half an hour. We finally got a DeSantis' announcement.
I'm Ron DeSantis, and I'm running for president to lead our great American comeback.
All right, so
that's the one we remember. It was the pre-produced video. We don't even remember the Twitter announcement.
How is he doing 1 week later?
And why are we focusing specifically on Ron DeSantis? Because he's the only one so far that's even remotely close to challenging Donald Trump. He's the only one that has numbers in the double digits. Everyone else is like polling at 1%. Congratulations, Nikki Haley.
If you've been with us since 9:30, you know that the Republican field, those who want to win the GOP nomination for the White House, is growing. Dave, you said it. There are enough players now to field almost 2 baseball teams. I counted 11 or 12, but there's a lot of maybes out there who haven't technically announced yet. DeSantis is the standout, right? He's the one who's supposed to be the guy, the governor of Florida, who can swoop in and overtake President Trump. So let's look at the poll numbers right now. I guess it depends on how you look at this glass half full, glass half, empty, glass overflowing, whatever it is. 43% of Republicans say they want to see Trump as the nominee. 43%. 19% say they want DeSantis.
Yeah, and I look at that again. It's the glass half filled or empty, however you want to look at it. This is a Monmouth poll that was just barely done in the last week or two. 19%, sure, that's not great compared to the 43% that say they want Trump, but 19% is still double, triple, quadruple of the next closest person challenging Trump.
Well, you look back, though, on President Trump's campaign back in 2016. I mean, he wasn't supposed to win, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he was polling way low.
I mean, and you said it's getting. Is it getting better for DeSantis?
No, and I think that's what
worse?
hurts. No, I think that's true. What hurts is if you look back in December, he was running away with Republican support. It was
that's right.
And it feels like this was so 5 months ago, but DeSantis had 39% of support, 26% for the former president, for Trump. So 39 for DeSantis, 26% for Trump. That's back in December. Well, that lead starts getting whittled away. By February, both of those guys are tied at 33% support. By March, 41% Trump, 27% DeSantis. And now it's 43-19. So you've seen this trend, and that's what's most concerning.
Rob DeSanctimonious and his poll numbers are dropping like a rock. I would almost be inclined to say these are record falls. The question, is Rob just young, inexperienced, and naive, or, more troubling, is he a fool who has no idea what the hell he's doing?
I hope he doesn't want to ask him to be his vice presidential running mate. I mean, listen,
did you catch?
Rob DeSanctimonious and his poll numbers are dropping like a rock. I would almost be inclined to say these are record falls. The question is, Rob
isn't that funny though? I mean, let's admit a little bit funny that we're playing the high school game of calling the girl that won't date you by the wrong name, Rob.
Well,
oh my goodness.
So DeSantis is swooping into Iowa. We're going to kick off, or did he already kick it off? He already kicked off.
Yeah, today I just saw he's in New Hampshire.
Yeah, he's already traveling the nation. He's not punched back a lot against President Trump. I've seen a little bit here and there. And he was asked, is he ready to start punching back against President Trump's comments?
So you talked about changing your tone a little bit with former President Trump. I don't believe you mentioned him here by name tonight, but does this mean you're going to be a bit more aggressive with campaigning against him?
So look, I'm going to respond to attacks. I mean, if you say Cuomo did a better job with COVID than Florida did, first of all, that's not what he used to say. This is like new. Like 6 months ago, he would have never said that, right? He used to say how great Florida was. Hell, his whole family moved to Florida under my governorship. Are you kidding me? So some of this stuff, I think, is, look, if someone is saying that, I am gonna counterpunch. I'm gonna fight back on it. I'm gonna focus my fire on Biden, and I think he should do the same. He gives Biden a free pass. I'm focusing on Biden. That's my focus.
And this is the curse of the primary. The curse of the primary is all of the infighting, all the airing of the dirty laundry, where you're attacking fellow Republicans who you may agree with politically or even on policy, but you just attack because you're trying to undercut them. So the longer a primary plays out, the more damaging it is for that party.
I was hopeful that Ron DeSantis would recover after that disastrous Twitter launch of an announcement that happened last week. Yikes. Just hearing that. Ugh.
Now it's quiet.
It gives me chills.
Might have surprised many, but not those of us who've known and worked with Elon for
But I'll say this: I don't think this last week has been his star is not rising. His star has not been. First of all, he's using way too much of this language.
We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
Does he listen to Is he listening to himself? Does he hear that? I mean, the rest, are we using that kind of language once we, get out of medicine?
We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations.
I haven't been impressed with that. I think he needs to get off that message and start talking more about how he's going to lead America, and that woke message needs to die.
I thought Nikki Haley had something insightful about what he should be doing. It's not very often that you hear a competitor giving advice to Ron DeSantis.
I'm just mentioning what everybody else is saying. I mean, you look at the fact that the way he speaks, the way his hand gestures are, the fact that he's moved his policies, whether it's Ukraine and Russia to entitlement reform, he's done a total 180. All of it's copying Trump. He needs to be his own person. He needs to get out there and say what he believes, what he thinks. If he's just going to be an echo to Trump, people just vote for Trump. Why doesn't he go out there? I'm my own person. You're going to see what you see is what you get. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you what I believe. And I'm going to let the chips fall where they may. He should do the same thing.
But again, glass half full. He's the only one in double digits right now. You look at the rest of the candidates that are out there, all the potential candidates, whether it's Mike Pence or Chris Christie, they don't have any support.
Yeah.
Very, very little support. So if it's not DeSantis, you're going to get Trump. And folks got to stop complaining about every other candidate that comes out. If you hate Trump so bad, then you've got to swallow something else. You got to have another person that you are on board with.
Ron DeSantis may be the only candidate in double digits, but
Rob DeSanctimonious and his poll numbers are dropping like a rock. I would almost be inclined to say these are record falls. The question is Rob just young, inexperienced, and naive, or, more troubling, is he a fool who has no idea what the hell he's doing?
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, Utah's all-day companion for news.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Heather Kelly. KSL's top story this hour, Utah's House reps saw eye to eye on the debt ceiling bill. All four voted in favor. Representative Blake Moore tells KSL at Night this was a first in his congressional tenure.
It was the White House and Senate under one-party rule in my first term, and it was mostly just no votes for me. And I felt like, it's great. I'm doing something. I stand by those votes. Tonight was one of those, I can actually vote for something that is going to change a trajectory.
Representative John Curtis also says this was a first spending bill or debt ceiling increase he's voted for since coming to Congress. Representative Burgess Owens tweeted the bill is, quote, the largest deficit reduction in American history. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. It's more than just shoplifting. Authorities say retail theft is getting more organized, more widespread, and it's costing businesses billions of dollars. ABC's Ariel Reshef says Home Depot has been especially hard hit.
They say thieves are growing more and more violent, threatening employees with guns, knives, even a hammer. Home Depot says it's taking steps to protect its workers and fight growing organized retail crime, showing us new measures they're testing in this store outside Atlanta. Alarmed gates, increased surveillance, and locking up merchandise.
Homeland Security is telling ABC News some of the groups have ties to drug trafficking or even terrorism financing. Your money at this moment, all of the markets are in the black, with the Dow gaining 180 points so far this morning. Coming up, warm and stormy. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Everything's changing so fast these days, and that's a great thing. Back in my day, we were lucky if we could get one video to load on a desktop computer, but now there's the Xfinity 10G network. That means the fastest internet with faster speeds rolling out every day, and internet that can power a house full of devices with ultra-low lag. So while one person streams a movie from their room, another can play video games in the basement, while another TikToks in the kitchen. It's the next generation 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Through July 21st, new customers can get started with gig internet on the Xfinity 10G network. Plus, get Xfi Complete with unlimited data and Wi-Fi equipment included for just $30 a month for 2 years with no annual contract when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data. Go to xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Gig Wi-Fi requires gig internet and Xfi Gateway. Actual speeds vary.
Text us here in the studio and give us your opinion. The Cyprus Credit Union KSL text line at 57500.
Hey, summer's here, and it's only getting hotter. Get 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for a year on a new day and night air conditioning system.
Don't put it off. Summer is here, and it's hot. Have a new day and night air conditioner and furnace system installed with 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 12 months. Enjoy savings and a cool, comfortable home for a full year before you even have to make a payment. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
Martin's Collision Repair.
50,000 cars repaired and counting. Just check Martin's 5-star online reviews.
Lee posted, Martin's Collision did an excellent job. The car looked perfect when the work was completed. I will always work with Martin's.
Hi, I'm Tiago Martins. Check Martin's Facebook page or martinscollision.com for your 5-star Martin's experience. On State Street in Norham and in Salem, we work with all insurance companies.
The right repair, the right paint, the right choice. Martin's Collision Repair.
I am back with my friends Greg and Mike at Replenish Landscape Garden Products. Yes, that is a sure sign of spring, and after the winter we've had with all of the precipitation, our soils are probably easier to work with, but starving for nutrients right now. And Greg, that's where you guys come in.
We are in our 29th year with our Replenish Compost, which is a proven wonderful amendment to the soil.
And it looks beautiful too, Mike. But the other thing they need to know is you can use it as a top dressing on your lawn, and this would be a good time to do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent time to do it. It's really good for adding nutrients to your soil as well as for some water retention.
We're booking people out right now, and so come and join us.
It's a real easy place to come pick up all you need with your own truck or trailer. They can help you load it right here at 4660 South, 200 West in Murray. Look them up online at replenishcompost.com or call 801-262-5142. Remember, Replenish. It's good stuff.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. There's no accidents reported anywhere across the Wasatch Front. We've got good speeds if you're on I-15, the east or west side belt routes, but construction barrels are pretty much everywhere, including US 89 in Layton, the 201 freeway through Magna both directions, and US 40 out in Summit County. Your KSL weather, thunderstorms are likely for the next few days with highs in the upper 70s and lows around 60 degrees. Fat Cats in Bluffdale now open. Bring the family and enjoy movies, bowling, food, arcades, and more. Fat Cats is the best place for family fun. Fat Cats, Bluffdale, 13901 South Redwood Road. Right now it's 70 degrees and partly cloudy at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We have some winners regarding what Salt Lake City is going to do with the old Bees ballpark once the Salt Lake Bees, the minor league baseball team, moves out to South Jordan, to the Daybreak area. They held a competition, right? The city held a competition for the best ideas. Then they narrowed down more than 100 entries to just a handful. And then yesterday they announced their 3 favorites. And they gave out $30,000 in prize money.
Yeah, the 3 categories were the professionals. So the professional design teams that came in, the residential, which was the surrounding neighbors, and then student submissions from all around the state, from even ones that don't have anything to do with the ballpark, but they wanted student submissions, Utah State, Utah Valley. I'm sure they had something down south as well. But, yeah, they had those three divided up. Now, remember, to make these designs happen, the Miller family has said they will help raise $100 million to turn this old ballpark into something amazing. My question, do they have to use any of these ideas, or can they get vetoed?
But you noticed something about all of the designs that were submitted by all of the finalists. So tell us what you noticed.
Yeah, none of them used a bulldozer. None of them used a bulldozer to knock down the old ballpark. They all used the ballpark in their designs in some way. Either they transformed it into shops and restaurants, or some designs wanted to use them as intended, as a sports facility.
She Plays Here ballpark was the professional winner. Tessa Arneson, good morning, founder and CEO of Maven District. Hi.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Your group's design won.
Yes, we did. We feel like 2023 is the time to start paying attention to women in sport. It's been 100 years since we've been supplementing men's sports. It's time for us to pay attention to what's going on in women's sports. It makes great business sense, and it keeps the community as a ballpark, which we heard over and over again from our community meetings. And then it also gives us a chance to build a business district and green space and a library all around it.
So paint a picture for us. What would this look like?
Well, what we know about women's sport is that when you have priority in scheduling, meaning your own place to play, you then get more attractive to sponsorship dollars, to filling the stadium, to getting the right media buys. And what that leads to is equal pay. And it's time. It's time. So we want our professional teams that already exist here, that are playing in parks or are playing fifth in priority at high schools, we want them to play here. We also, our ultimate dream would be to have the Royals play here eventually. So there are a lot of teams that exist at the pro level that do not have pro level accommodations, and we want to give that to them.
So which sports are you talking about specifically?
So specifically, we have been really closely working with the Utah Falcons. They're a tackle football league. Utah Wild, they are Ultimate Frisbee, and Utah Rugby. They are all at the pro or just under the pro, and also WSL is the semi-pro soccer league also. So those all already exist in Utah, and why not give them a home, literally put them on an equal playing field than what we do for men all over the country.
Tessa Arneson's group that submitted their design for the ballpark neighborhood. Of course, we all know by now that the Bees are going to be leaving the downtown Salt Lake City area and starting the 2025 season out in South Jordan, about 25 miles away. So that opens up the 13th South and Main area for new development. And your group won the professional design, and it's called She Plays Here Ballpark. And it would bring in women's sports, athletic events to that area. What about the economics of women's sports? Would it bring money into that area, Tessa?
Now, right now we have a lot of really recent examples. A great one is the fact that a couple weeks ago, an expansion team for women's soccer just got sold for $55 million. That's the highest that anyone's ever paid for women's soccer. That's huge. To give you note, Ryan Smith bought the Royals for around $2 million, and that was about 6 months ago. So just the timing of this seems really correct. And then the reference that everyone keeps making of the NCAA women's teams that played, they had more viewership than men. This also happens in women's soccer. They are always some of the best in the world and way, way outperform men, not only from the performance level, but also from the financial level. So I feel like this is the perfect time because now it makes economic sense. This isn't just a social cause. We now can put them together and really create something that makes money for the city, is great for the neighborhood, gives people a place to come every single day, which is what the mayor really wants, and allows us to move the needle forward towards women equality.
But this would be a place where people would have to pay to buy a ticket to get in and sit down and watch, right?
This would, but there also is in this plan, and mind you, there's still so much more that has to be worked out with this. There's so much, there's public forums that are going to be coming up, and then this will go to an official RFP process eventually. But we really think free viewership on the outside, like on the edges of the stadium, would be really interesting to play with. So we really want to make sure, and then this is 12 and a half acres, so that much exceeds just the footprint of the ballpark. There's adjacent lots. We really want to make sure there's a really big community gathering space with grass and potentially opening back up the stream that runs through there. Like we want this to be a place that people use not only for a ballpark, but they're using it for their daily lives. And we want concerts, we want cultural events. We want places people can open up businesses in a really low threshold kind of way, whether that's through a food truck or a pop-up shop or a very small flexible lease. We know that that's what attracts business owners to the area, and that's what we've been studying at the Maven District for the last 8 years.
Tessa, before we let you go, could the city veto this and go with their own plan altogether and not even put a female ballpark in that area? Athletic ballpark? They sure can. But what we hope is that this contest has proved that there is a lot of public support behind it. We overwhelmingly received the majority of the votes for this. So we know people are paying attention, and we also feel like the timing is really right. We feel like it's the right mayor to get behind this, and we live in the right state, and we feel like women's sport isn't controversial. The World Cup summer, there's a lot of momentum behind this that we feel still will keep this on the hearts and minds, and we were asking the supporters to let your city officials and state officials know that this is what you want to see. They listen, and it's their entire job. So we want to keep the momentum going, and we'll be at the Pride Festival this Sunday in the parade, and if you want to march with us in your team uniform, we would love to have you.
Tessa Arneson, thank you for joining us.
You want to take phone calls from our listeners, and every time we talk about this and we take phone calls, we get a ton of phone calls. So what's the question that you want to ask our listeners, Dave? Because I don't know if you're 100% sold on the idea of a women's sports stadium.
Yeah, I love women's sports. I was a girls softball coach for years and years. It was basically 9 months of my life for, 5 or 6 years. I love it. Is this the right thing? Will people pay to show up year around? I've been to a lot of sporting events, and I'm not just picking on the girls, the guys. It is a tough business. I've been to a lot of Bees games with empty stadiums. So, should they veto this plan, or do you like it? Do you want to turn the old Bees ballpark into, what's the name of it? She Plays Here Ballpark. She Plays Here Ballpark or veto? New plan. 801-575-TALK. 801-575-TALK. We're taking your phone calls.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hey, before the talk starts here each morning, KSL is all news. I'm Tim Hughes.
And I'm Amanda Dixon. We get you the first word on major news and updated weather.
KSL News Radio is your morning companion for news.
We're lucky in Utah to enjoy all 4 seasons.
These storms, they bubble up and move quick, and then they zip on out.
Sometimes all in one day.
We did have a tornado warning that was issued.
June means everything from hailstorms to 100-degree days. That's why you need traffic and weather together. Every 10 minutes on the 9s on KSL News Radio.
When it comes to water use, dairy farmers have long been stewards of the land. No one understands the need for water for today and for tomorrow like dairy farmers. And that's why Dairy West wants you to know more about LEPA, or the Low Energy Precision Application System. This system allows dairy farmers to use less water by minimizing evaporation. In traditional irrigation systems, evaporative water loss occurs through wind directly off the soil and from water sitting on a plant. By irrigating closer to the ground, farmers reduce this evaporative loss and use less water. Coupled with strategic crop rotation, farmers' yields also increase. As a collective industry, dairy farmers have committed to improving water use and water quality and greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Dairy West is proud of their farmers and their commitment to a cleaner, more efficient world through farming innovation. This message is brought to you by Dairy West.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No. We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our client's best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Our state's children face a serious threat from the vaping industry. But thanks to state leaders and the Utah Health Department, Utah established the strictest nicotine standards for vaping in the United States to protect our kids. However, the vaping industry sued, claiming their sales and profits are down. Now they're pushing the health department to hand control of vaping regulations to the federal government. We can't allow that to happen. The proposed change would automatically increase nicotine levels in vape pens and reintroduce fruity flavors that entice our kids back into Utah convenience stores. Visit StopKidsVaping.com today and make your voice heard. Utah should maintain state control, preserve our 3% nicotine limitations, and prevent vaping flavors from returning to Utah convenience stores. Together, we can secure a better future for our children. Join us at StopKidsVaping.com and tell the health department, protect our kids.
Paid for by Prosperous Utah Communities.
Bees baseball is leaving Salt Lake City in just a couple of years. So, should that area on 13 South around Main Street become a facility for women's athletics? We're taking your live phone calls. Do you agree with the winning design being a spot for females to play sports? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK.
The UACPA supports certified professional accountants in Utah through ongoing professional education and leadership development for an ever-changing financial world. Find a CPA at uacpa.org.
Introducing Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. The same people you know and trust, providing Utah with the same great service you've counted on for more than 45 years. We're even throwing in a great offer for you. Say yes and beat the summer heat with our $49 tune-up special. For all your heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical needs, you can always count on Yes. Visit theyesmancan.com to schedule your appointment.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Becky Bruce. First, all four of Utah's representatives in the House voted for the debt ceiling compromise, but our senators are split on the issue. Second, the Utah Valley Marathon is a big event, or at least it will be, if race organizers can round up enough volunteers. And third, the Department of Homeland Security says organized shoplifting is growing and helping to finance drug cartels and other organized groups. Right now, it's partly sunny, 66 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
After 2 months of submissions, more than 4,600 votes, we have three finalists this morning for the Salt Lake City Ballpark Next, the new design that may or may not happen. We don't know for sure if the city will accept it after the Salt Lake Bees move to Daybreak. And the winning design, we just spoke to the leader of the group, will be a women's athletics facility.
Yeah, a place for professional women's athletics to land. So this is what the ballpark would be transformed into. It would be a large, they would be changing it from the baseball field, probably into a multi-purpose soccer, lacrosse, rugby, perhaps even softball, which would allow a lot of different teams throughout the entire year to come and play. A home for women's sports.
We just spoke to Tessa Arneson. She's a founder of and CEO of Maven District. There was a group of people who submitted this design, and she said, 2023, it's the year of the women's sport.
We feel like 2023 is the time to start paying attention to women in sport. It's been 100 years since we've been supplementing men's sports. It's time for us to pay attention to what's going on in women's sports. It makes great business sense.
Dave wanted to know, do you agree with that? Does that make great business sense? 801-575-TALK. Let's get to our phone lines. Doug, you're up first. Good morning. You live in Salt Lake City.
Good morning. Yes, actually, and I don't live far from the ballpark. Here's the thing, though, that I have a concern of, is the mayor said that there were several things she was looking for, and one of the things the mayor always talks about is diversity and inclusion, and basically, if you're making it a singular gender, then you're basically telling my son, well, you're not welcome here. And that, and the other thing that she said is she wants it to be used year round. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to go watch any sport when it's 10 degrees below zero and snowing. That's not a year round use. The thing is that, there's a lot of ideas, but I just don't think that's one that would be feasible, basic's So that's just my thought.
No, thanks. It certainly would be unique in the sense if they didn't allow men's teams to play there. I can't think of any ballpark around the state that discriminates in that way, that only allows one gender to play. But I think, the idea is that there's a lot of women's sports teams. There's even some professional teams. They need a home. And that if you did create this spot, that it would be used enough that it would be a destination spot.
Don't know what the winter use would be.
Oh, true.
Good point.
Now, there are some football teams, right? We go to freezing cold, raining, snowy football games all the time in this state. That certainly happens.
That's a good point.
So maybe that's where the tackle football happens.
And to listen to Tessa describe what's happening in women's sports right now is, borrowing, stadiums at high schools or heading to a park to play their sports.
It's time. So we want our professional teams that already exist here that are playing in parks or are playing fifth in priority at high schools. We want them to play here.
So bring them to one central location, the old Bees ballpark, Smith's ballpark, 13 South, right about Main Street near downtown Salt Lake after the Bees move. And then I think it's like maybe it is a build it and they will come moment for women's sports where you're bringing them in from the neighborhood parks and you're putting them at one central location.
Before we get to Jacob in Saratoga Springs, when we talk about professional sports, there's this thought in our brains that it's the Utah Jazz, that it's big money, huge contracts. Most of professional sports makes nothing. It is there's not enough money to really pay the players, and certainly not enough money to pay the players to have a sustainable lifestyle. Minor League Baseball is a great example. These guys play for peanuts, Deb. I mean, they are making less than minimum wage when you look at all the time and money that they are paid. It is a terrible career path. They're shooting for the big leagues where they get that big payday. But until there is that big payday in women's professional sports, let's just be very clear. It's more of an issue about getting people to commit the time, money, and effort when you're not getting paid very much.
801-575-TALK. Jacob says you live in Saratoga Springs.
Yeah, and I guess really the thought that is coming to mind at this whole discussion is that is why are the Bees moving in the first place, right? If they think we have to take into account why they're moving, they're not. It's not that there isn't a market here in the state, but there really are certain particular areas where the market is going to be there and available. I think the bees are moving because the market, the kind of clientele, the people that are going to show up to the games, are going to watch the games, and this goes across for men's sports, women's sports, any sports. They're moving their location to where it makes economic sense, to where they're going to be able to make money and become profitable. And that's my concern with is you can make you can renovate the ballpark, you can make changes, you can do whatever, but ultimately the location is still the same. And if we look at the places in the state that are growing the fastest, where say kids, I've got a kid of my own, and now I've got tons of friends that they have daughters. Maybe they want to take them to see a women's game, but I don't know. But most of those people, so down here in Saratoga Springs, for example, this is a very busy, growing area, lots of young families, and same with South Jordan. And I think that's particularly why I think that the bees even are moving at all, is not because the market isn't there. And I think the market is there for women's sports too. There certainly is a place, but it's all about the location. And I'm just not sure that the ballpark neighborhood in Salt Lake City is going to remain that location. I think you got to take your business to where your customers are going to show up and give you the money. You got to meet them halfway.
And you would think that location would be a hot spot. You would think that because it's just outside of downtown. It's really located in a.
It's never been.
It never has, though.
It never took off.
Yeah. And part of that is the city's fault. Part of that is the city's fault, because where are you going to go for a Bees game? Within walking distance, parking's a nightmare. Restaurants are few and far between. There's a handful. And there's a crime element there. There's some dangerous neighborhoods where I'm not very comfortable running around with my kids and letting them run and play. And I've taken countless kids to the ballpark, and I keep a close eye on them because it can be a dangerous part of town.
And there's been opportunity. That ballpark opened, what did we decide? 1994?
Yeah.
And there was a ballpark before that, and another ballpark before that. And in that same area, there's been plenty of opportunity. I remember when it opened, I was there live at Channel 4. We did a hour-long or 2-hour-long special the day it opened. It is the most beautiful ballpark in terms of views, I
gorgeous.
think, in the nation, right? I mean, that the view of the Wasatch is completely gorgeous. But there's a big old parking lot right across the street, and then there's the Sev. All love 7-Eleven, right? But that's like, there's Lucky 13, which is amazing for hamburgers, but they've never.
There's one place. There's either
packed.
The bar where you have to go and show your ID,
and can't
so
get
not
a child in.
so not good for your family,
You can't get
right?
your
You
kids
can't
in.
get your kids in, or you got the 7-Eleven hot dog. Like that's a problem with the city. The city did not develop that area well enough, and the hope is that this new thing, this new program, the new design is going to include a lot of that. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. They have $100 million to play with, or at least that's the hope. They should be able to make something awesome, whatever it turns out to be. $100 million should be able to buy you something awesome.
Next, Dave, are you interested in that $7,500 tax credit if you get your hands on an electric vehicle?
I do like incentives.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why you'll have a better shot at $7,500 if you lease an EV instead of buy one. Next.
1031 at KSL News Radio. I'm Becky Bruce. KSL's top local story this hour. Counties are spending more than ever on search and rescue this season thanks to all the flooding. Kane County Sheriff Tracy Glover says it's cost them a lot in funding, but he says that's not their top priority.
At the end of the day, if people are in need of help, I don't know a sheriff in the state of Utah that's not going to pull out whatever stops we have to pull out to make sure we can get help to people.
The Utah Valley Marathon is 2 days away, but it's in desperate need of volunteers right now. Managers for the event tell KSL TV they are 250 volunteers short, and that volunteers are starting to fill bags for the runners today. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Now that the debt ceiling compromise has passed the House, the bill moves on to the Senate. ABC News' Rachel Scott is on Capitol Hill.
The bill claws back billions in unspent COVID funds and from the IRS and imposes new work requirements for some older Americans receiving food assistance. It now heads to the Senate up against the clock, with just 4 days until the government runs out of money to pay its bills.
Utah Senator Mitt Romney says he supports the bill. Senator Mike Lee says he is strongly opposed. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 210 points right now, the S&P 500 up 40, and the NASDAQ up 151. Coming up, developing thunderstorms this afternoon. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
Hey, folks, let me tell you about...
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Free Frazzle Fridays, that starts tomorrow. That's right, Free Frazzle Fridays in June. If you don't know what a frazzle is, it's a slushie. You remember those hot days in the summer and you're just dying of heat. You're just searching for something to cool you down. That's a frazzle. It's one of my favorite places to go. I have a Maverick right by my house that I go to all the time. A frazzle slushie is wonderful, and they're going to give you a free one on Fridays in June. It's a 12-ounce frazzle drink. You got to make sure you can download the app. There's a Frazzle app. You can go online, freefrazzlefriday.com, and they can tell you what participating locations there are. Like I said, I went to the one, the Maverick, but there's Holiday Oil, Fast Stop, Good to Go, Oasis, lots of places in Utah, Idaho, Nevada, all over the place. You can get a free Frazzle on Friday. Go ahead and test it out. One of my favorites is the Pina Colada. That has tons of sugar, lots of caffeine. So if you want to have a little extra energy to go play out in the hot, warm summer air, that's a great way to go. Check out the free Frazzle Friday.
With our roots in northern Utah, Holy Cross Hospital has a legacy of caring to help every person be whole and healthy. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
At Holy Cross Hospital, we're honored to carry the legacy of our namesake and equally honored to care for northern Utah's vibrant communities. Find us at 5 Holy Cross Hospital locations and more than 45 clinics along the Wasatch Front. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
Lowe's knows the value of quality paint for pros. That's why starting on June 5th, Pro Paint Days are coming to Lowe's. Shop special savings on the products you need for all your paint jobs. Plus, MVP's members can take advantage of an additional limited-time-only paint offer when you shop Valspar and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams. Join the Pro MVP's Rewards program today. Offers valid 6/5 to 6/16. Exclusions, restrictions, and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/L/Pro Loyalty Terms. Subject to change.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, we've got a new crash northbound I-15 just before the I-215 South interchange in Midvale. A couple of cars are a bit scawampus, but the good news is they're all over to the right shoulder. No lanes are blocked. Everybody's moving at freeway speeds through that area. No problems on the rest of the roadways, but you're going to have construction to deal with pretty much every major roadway you go to. Box Elder County is for the birds. The spring migration is in full swing at Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge. Find out more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Clouds building this afternoon, some developing thunderstorms and a high of 79 degrees. Right now, we're already at 70 degrees at KSL News Radio. 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
This headline stopped me in my tracks, and I'm going to get Dave into a leased electric vehicle today before we leave the lot. ABC News is reporting the easiest way, Dave, to get the $7,500 federal tax credit for an electric vehicle, leasing. You got to lease the car.
That shocks me.
You're a big lease guy, right?
I've leased one vehicle. There's some people that have such a terrible taste in their mouth from leasing that they will never go back. I didn't think it was too bad. I didn't think it was too bad for a couple different reasons. Number one, it kept my monthly payment low, and it was my first car, the first car I ever owned. And that was all that mattered to me is, can I make that monthly payment? I wasn't looking at the 5 years in the future. I just wanted to know, can it help me this month? And it worked. It worked pretty well for me.
So you may be wondering why it's better to lease the car to qualify for that up to that full $7,500 rebate from the feds over buying.
First of all, I'm absolutely shocked that it would even qualify on a lease.
Mm-hmm.
So that I just assumed if I was going to lease a vehicle, an electric vehicle, that the tax credit would not apply to it. And you're telling me it does?
Yeah. So here's what ABC News is reporting, and I'll do my best to break it down for you. So remember last year's Inflation Reduction Act?
Yep.
They wrapped into that this federal tax credit for electric vehicles. And if you buy an electric vehicle under the rules, you got all kinds of things that you have to make sure that electric vehicle has on it, or it's like made it more in America than it's not, than not made in America. And there's so many rules that apply to the buyer. It makes it really difficult for buyers to get their hands on that tax credit for an EV.
To qualify for it.
To qualify.
Okay.
And because it's just dwindled the number of vehicles that you can buy, electric vehicles you can buy and get that tax credit. And I'm looking at this list. I mean, it's a short list of cars if you want to buy them and qualify for that $7,500. So you've got you got a Cadillac on there, you got some Chevys on there, you've got the Chrysler Pacifica. I drove one of those when I rented it years ago.
Is that the minivan?
No, it's like a kind of a mini SUV. Maybe it is now a little bit more of a minivan than an SUV. You got some Fords and Jeeps, but there's not a huge list of EVs you can buy and qualify for that full $7,500. In fact, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or so, maybe 8 vehicles, and the rest you get kind of partial.
Oh wow!
Credit. You get like $3,700.
Why? They just said because it's not made in America.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So but when it comes to leasing under the rules, according to ABC, a dealer can apply the credit to any leased EV, no matter where it's made. Yeah, because it's considered a commercial.
Okay.
Vehicle. Yeah. So it's just under the law.
It's fuzzy.
Yeah.
Rule bending.
Uh-huh.
But they figured out a way to get that full $7,500 credit. Okay.
Now,
and it's through leasing. Interesting.
Right. Now, you've been kind of hesitant to trade in your beaters.
Yeah.
Your beater cars.
Yeah, they're pricey.
You've got 2 of them.
Yep.
On an EV.
3. Okay.
Oh, you got 3.
That's fine,
you got 3 gas guzzlers that are.
They're not gas guzzlers, but they're beaters. Okay.
Old school cars that you have, but what is your appetite to purchase an EV?
I would love it, Debbie. I would love to stop buying gasoline at $4 a gallon. I would love not to have to worry about oil changes. I would love to be in something semi-new. I don't even need like very new, but a lease would put me into something very new. So yeah, you're checking some boxes so far.
What is your range anxiety with an EV? Like you plug it
Yeah.
in and then you want to go on, on a trip with your family. What's your range anxiety
Okay,
level? How far can you get without getting nervous?
I would need at least a couple hundred miles.
So
I don't need the 450, but give me a couple hundred. I need to be able to go down to Provo anytime I want or to Bear Lake without worrying about stopping off and recharging the batteries.
If you were to lease an electric vehicle, I would suggest this, as your friend, is you have one EV and you have one gas guzzling car.
Okay.
So you can take the gas guzzler on road trips because under a lease anyways, you're usually limited on the number of miles you can put on a car anyway. And if you lease an EV, it's going to keep you under, let's say, 10,000 miles a year, which isn't a lot if you're going on long road trips with it. But also, if you use the gas car for the longer road trips and keep the EV for the shorter trips, I think it's a win-win for your family. And then you also keep your mileage under the mileage cap on a lease.
Okay, I've heard that several times, that an EV is very good as a second car, not so much as a primary car because of those long trips. But I hadn't thought about it from the lease point of view, where they restrict or limit your mileage. If it is just your commuter car, then it will be way, way, way easier to come under that 10 or 12,000 mile lease mark. And because what happens is and this is what happened to me, when I had my lease, I went way over on the mileage, and I eventually had to pay it, just buy it, because the fine or the penalties for going over my mileage would have been far too punitive. So I just bought the vehicle after the lease.
Dave and I talking about an ABC News report that gets into the nitty-gritty details about the $7,500 EV tax rebate that was baked into the Inflation Reduction Act last year. And that $7,500 is actually more accessible to buyers, actually not buyers, people who are willing to
Leasers.
get into a lease over buying because of the way the law was structured. And so now I'm trying to twist Dave's arm into the idea of becoming a leaser.
Okay.
He has some old cars, and he's trying to figure out what to do. And so I also did you another favor. I tried to find out what the best lease deals are for you and your family out there on electric vehicles. And it's not as pricey as you have made them out to be in the past.
Okay.
Like you have been Mr. Sky is Falling on the price of an EV. But I want to talk to you about the lease prices that I found with the help of Carfax. Chevy Bolt EV, it's under $300 a month. $6,500 due at signing.
Okay, that's an important piece, right? If I've got to cough up $6,500 at signing,
that's where the rebate.
That covers my rebate?
Yeah, that's what you need to ask.
Deb, I'm in.
You need to ask a salesperson about this, but that's the rebate. That's where you
I could use the rebate
helps.
in the signing.
The Kia, it's a little mini SUV. It's super cute. $500 a month, $5,000 at signing. But you're a smart car guy. You have a 2010 smart car with non-electric windows. So you
2009.
Could,
okay, go ahead.
You would do well with a Nissan Leaf.
Yeah. I would be good in any of these. I would love
$300 a month, $2,500 due at signing.
I'm going to be the Tasmanian devil out of here, like a hole through the wall running at this.
I think you need to go start asking these questions of car dealers and ask them what does a lease look like to me and my family?
And where does that federal tax credit go? Like, you have to be able to go in there and say, okay, if I'm getting $7,500 tax credit, show me exactly where it's going on my lease. Is it being used to close the signing costs? Is it going to help lower the monthly payment? Make sure they spell that out for you exactly where it's going.
Cautionary tale next. We're going to get certified financial planner Shane Stewart to call the show and talk to you about this issue. Once you start leasing, you never go back. You don't go back to buying. You become a serial leaser.
You have to decide what you're trying to accomplish and what your budget can afford. Many people who lease become serial leasers, meaning they continue to trade one in for the next new model and lease that one as well, and they'll always have a car payment. So what one would need to consider is, do I want to eventually not have a car payment? And if that's the goal, you would end up buying.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie are just getting the talk started.
From 1 to 3, check out Inside Sources.
Get a look behind the curtain in D.C. from Boyd Matheson.
Your all-day companions are here
on KSL News Radio.
Quarters. Just 25 cents. That's hardly anything, right? The retirement specialists at Capital Wealth Advisors see quarters a little differently. A quarter is a lot when it's a quarter of your retirement savings. Do you want to pay 25% or more in taxes during your retirement? Capital Wealth Advisors can create a plan to help address taxes in retirement. If the only time you think about taxes is when you file them, you do not have a tax strategy. But it's not too late to get one with the help from Capital Wealth Advisors. Act now to make sure you're not paying a quarter, dime, or even a penny more than you should. Call the team at Capital Wealth Advisors at 801-210-5500 to schedule your complimentary retirement tax analysis. A quarter saved is a quarter earned. Call 801-210-5500 now. That's 801-210-5500. Firm offers insurance services but may not give tax advice. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Imagine getting ahead of your irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C by treating it with Linzess. Then you could start proactively managing your constipation with belly pain and get ahead of your symptoms. Talk to your doctor about Linzess, linaclotide. Linzess is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually.
Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
Imagine, what could relief from IBS-C mean for you? Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Becky Bruce. First, counties across the state are spending a lot more on search and rescue operations this year, in part because of all the spring runoff and flooding. Second, a woman who was part of a robbery that turned deadly last Christmas will go to prison for 15 years for her role as an accomplice. And third, the debt ceiling compromise heads to the Senate now. It passed the House by a wide margin last night. Right now, 70 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Right on the Money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
We're talking about an ABC News article that I found, and I thought this is a great opportunity to pitch Dave on getting into a lease. And a lot of people are like, lease. And get him into an electric vehicle. Here's why. According to ABC News, the options for the $7,500 rebate that the federal government is offering for EVs are much broader if you lease versus buy. It sounds weird. It just is the way the legislation was structured that leasing this rebate qualifies for a lot more leased vehicles than it would for if you went out and bought one.
You've leased, right?
Once.
I leased once as well.
Years ago in the 90s.
Good
One
experience,
time.
bad experience?
Well, it just kind of fell flat a little bit, but I remember I needed to get into something that was really inexpensive and economical. So I leased a Toyota Camry with non-electric windows. I think I had to push the door locks up. And it's like, oh, what a horrible, you had to crank the windows. But with, lots of kids coming on the way, it just kind of wasn't my cup of tea. So I ended up getting out of that lease. I ended up selling it.
Mine was a 1997 Honda Civic. The most stolen car in history. The 97 Honda Civic. I leased it. It was a 5-year lease, and then I bought it out afterwards on another 5-year lease. It took me 10 years, Debbie, to pay off a $17,000 new car. 10 years.
We'll talk to certified financial planner Shane Stewart in just a moment about why that is a bad idea. You just got to walk away from your lease. You got to drop the keys at the end of the lease at the dealership and walk away. Some upsides to leasing an EV was the price I found on Carfax. It could be significantly under $500 a month. And what you're not putting in your gas tank, because it's an electric vehicle, you're making up for the car payment. You also won't have oil changes.
Emissions testing.
You won't have emissions testing. You won't need to worry when the engine light goes on.
I'm sure they have engine lights.
Well, yeah, but it's under warranty.
Yeah,
and so
that's true.
You don't need to drive
good
it
point.
to your local mechanic shop and worry about what the bill is going to be. Shane Stewart, certified financial planner with the MBA, though I think the downside to leasing, one of the glaring downsides, is what you've called you become a serial leaser, that once you start leasing, it's really hard to stop.
It is, and the reason being is because you get used to having a newer car. A lot of those maintenance things that you referenced are taken care of, and it's easy to just get back into another lease. In fact, when you turn the lease in, they'll talk to you about re-upping a lease on a newer car, and that's easy to get in that loop.
I remember, I guess I just realized it, how long it took me to get out of my lease, and then I purchased the car after that. It was a 10-year of paying a monthly payment on a pretty affordable car. Like, this wasn't a luxury vehicle. It was a 97 Civic.
Yeah. I think,
yeah.
Go ahead, Shane.
I think the thing that you referenced there is it depends on the car as well. I think that's why they're making electric cars a little more accessible by a lease. And it does make some sense, like you mentioned, Debbie, with the rebates and the ability to put more towards less money towards more of a car is a lucrative thing when it comes to a lease. Not to mention that electric cars, the technology is changing so quickly, you might want to turn that car over in the next 3, 4, 5 years for a different car as well.
But I think there has to be a mindset shift in when we enter the realm of leasing. I like what you told our producer yesterday when we were discussing whether we would talk about this story, and that is that you can eliminate a lot of repairs, and it's under warranty. And also with electric vehicles, there's a lot of worry about the cost of changing the battery. At the end of the battery life, could be thousands. You don't have to worry about that. But I also like the idea of just owning a car outright and never having a payment on my car.
Yeah, and you hit a key thing there, Debbie. When people ask me, should I lease or buy the car, my question is, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to accomplish owning an asset, even though it depreciates over time, but it's still owning the asset that you could have for decades? Most cars will last you up to decades, and at some point, hopefully in the first 3 to 4 years, you owe nothing on, so you're not making a payment all those years, and you can put that money to better use. If that's your goal, you buy. If your goal is to always have the nicest, newest car and free of the stress of some of the maintenance, you'll always pay a payment. But if that's your goal, a lease might be the way to go.
One thing I didn't realize until after I had already leased a car is what the negotiating looks like. And we're talking about this $7,500 EV rebate that you would get. How do you go about that, making sure that that rebate is benefiting you and not the dealership?
Yeah, I think you're right, Dave. You have to be very careful in the negotiation of a lease contract anyway. Anytime you're in a lease contract, you really have to educate yourself on what the particulars are, including things like how many miles you can drive, et cetera. But with these new rebates, you really want to be clear on, am I getting all of that rebate, and how do I get it? Do I get it one shot or over time? You have to be really clear in a lease contract anyway, but especially with these new rebates.
Shane Stewart, thank you for joining us. Certified financial planner with the MBA.
Your wheels are turning.
It's hard not to get sucked into this conversation, Deb. I mean, I'm driving, as Shane said, decades-old cars.
You are.
Decades-old cars.
How old's your oldest car?
2001. I got a truck that I'm driving around. 2001.
I've seen that truck.
Yeah.
It's definitely
oldie but a goodie.
Day.
It's a beater, but it's good. It's been good, but yeah, would I rather drive a brand new EV? Absolutely.
What kind of mileage does that truck get?
14, 15 miles to the gallon.
And you use it occasionally.
Every time I fill it up, it's $75 to $100.
How many times a month do you fill it up?
We don't drive it. It's not a commuter car, so we don't. A couple times, maybe once every 10 days.
But every time you're not filling that up, and you're using an EV instead, that's making up for that lease payment. I'm no car salesman. I don't know if I've sold you on one today or not. But I just had to talk about this.
I'll sit down with somebody. I'll sit down with somebody for sure. You've piqued my interest.
Pulling up curbside now.
We've got a half dozen that advertise on this show. So
I have been known to keep cars too long. I'm going to win this battle at the mechanic shop, and I'm going to fix this car to the point where it is drivable again until it's not, and then I take it back, and then it's thousands of dollars. And I'm slightly in that mode right now with my 2014 car. It's food for thought. Happy to feed you today, Dave.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, Utah's all-day companion for news.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. Health Department officials say a bat found in Salt Lake City this week tested positive for rabies. That's a concern because people can get rabies from bats, and their bites and scratches can often go unnoticed. Salt Lake County Health Department did not say where this particular bat was found, but there was a similar warning issued earlier today over a rabid bat found at Dinosaur National Monument. 10,000 new housing units could be coming to Salt Lake City if a new plan passes the county. KSL News Radio's Kate Davis reports.
The new construction would be a mix of affordable and deeply affordable units. KSL.com reports officials are working on a bold response to the current shortage in fast-growing Salt Lake. A policy expert working on the plan says it won't solve the problem, but it will start chipping away at Salt Lake's affordable housing shortage.
The plan also seeks to make neighborhoods more accessible and family-friendly. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The debt limit deal is on its way to the Senate after passing the House with just 4 days left until the government could run out of cash. It could also face some hurdles from both sides of the aisle in the Senate. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Schultze.
The White House has said that not everyone got what they wanted in this agreement, but the message that we are hearing both from the president and from Speaker McCarthy today is that getting this done is a victory and that it would prevent that really catastrophic scenario of the U.S. being unable to pay its bills as soon as Monday.
All four of Utah's representatives voted for the bill. Senator Mike Lee says he'll vote no, while Senator Mitt Romney supports it. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 210 points on the day right now. The NASDAQ is up 153. And our KSL weather, that stormy pattern with thunderstorms in the afternoon is still ongoing. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
I'm Howard Mackler, founder of Innovation Refunds. You've heard me talking about the payroll tax refund for months. If you own a business, even if you've asked your CPA about this, you owe it to yourself to take another look. We provide a licensed and insured tax attorney who evaluates your company at my expense to determine eligibility. Businesses of all types can qualify, so go to getrefunds.com to potentially get a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. Download the Innovation Refunds app or go to getrefunds.com, getrefunds.com.
Here's a message just for the attorneys out there. So you passed the bar, joined a firm, or even built your own. Now are you finding out that you're doing more administration than actual law practice? Lexicon can help. Lexicon is a legal technology provider with over a decade of experience streamlining administrative tasks like timekeeping, billing, and more, so you can focus on maximizing billable hours and increasing client satisfaction. Call 855-4-LEXICON or visit lexiconservices.com/go to learn more.
Here's what happens when you get brand new custom vinyl windows from Advanced Window Products. All of a sudden, your house has more curb appeal. Your home is more secure. Your heating and air conditioning bills tumble, and you have a local company in business 37 years standing behind their work for life. But that's not all. Since they build your custom windows at their facility in Salt Lake, there's no middleman markup. So you can save money on the highest quality windows on the market. Argon-filled double-pane glass. Insulation within the vinyl framing. Top of the line, built to spec. They will create magnificent bow windows, doggy doors cut into the glass. Any color, it's all custom, all installed by their team, and every window is guaranteed for life. Rocky Mountain and Dominion offer rebates. Advanced Windows offers 60-month, 0% financing, and right now, save $2,000 on 10 windows or more. So save now, pay later. Call Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or visit advancedwindowsusa.com.
At aimyourdigital.com, we'll help you target the right audience, build your leads, and crush your quota. Take your business to the next level. Our digital marketing strategies help grow awareness of your product or service, all while building trust in your business. Our approach involves leveraging multiple tools and strategies to deliver exceptional results that are customized to your unique business needs. Don't wait to run out of sales leads. Keep your business growing. Get started with aimyourdigital.com today.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Here's Aubrey Withridge.
Right now, I-15 is looking great all the way from Willard Bay down to Utah Lake. And if you're traveling on the city streets, they're looking pretty good. A little bit busy if you're on Redwood Road in Taylorsville, and also Pioneer Crossing coming out of American Fork and down to Saratoga Springs. That looks a little bit busy as well. Other than that, things are looking pretty good right now. Get your spring fever on and brighten your patio and landscape with vibrant color from Olson's Greenhouse Bedding and Container Plants. Find where to buy Olson's flowers at OGG.com. I'm Aubrey Withridge in the KSL Traffic Center.
Our KSL weather, thunderstorms likely again this afternoon with a high in the upper 70s. More of the same tomorrow and through the weekend. 70 degrees right now and partly cloudy at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Well, last night, the House overwhelmingly voted in favor of the debt ceiling. And so it goes to the Senate now. It passed 314 to 117 no votes, so 314 yes votes. And I just want to just listen to the excitement in House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's voice.
This is fabulous. This is one of the best nights I've ever been here. I thought it would be hard. I thought it'd be almost impossible just to get to 218. Now I found there's a whole new day here. We've woken them up. Maybe they listen to our speeches.
I've never heard his voice so high and so excited. Like that would break glass. That's like the opera singer hitting the high note. He was so happy.
Was this a win? Who was this a win for? Was it a win for the Democrats, Joe Biden? Was it a win for Speaker McCarthy?
Okay, before I turn it over to Boyd, I have my own feelings. I think it's a bag of Oreos. It's a bag of Oreos that you love Oreos and you think it's a good idea to just have a couple bites and then you finish off the entire bag of Oreos and you're like, oh man, I feel terrible the next morning. So sure, we may have averted one little crisis, but there's plenty of crisis to go around. You're going to pay the piper at some point. That's going to go straight to the hips. Okay, Boyd?
Straight to the hips. That may be the line of the day, Dave. We'll give that to you. And to Deb's point, I think everyone can claim a little bit of a win, and everyone can feel a little bit sick in terms of where things ended up. A really fascinating one to watch. Everyone will and already has been claiming victory of one sort or another, depending on where you fell on all of this. I think a couple of important takeaways. One, let's go back to where we started back in January and February. No need to panic. This is going to get done. There's going to be a lot of angst. There's going to be a lot of shouting matches. There's going to be a lot of drama. You're going to hear catastrophe, debt fault, history, blah, 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 and we've endured it, and here we are, just as we said we would be. In the end, this is what's going to get done. And it might take the Senate over the weekend to actually run it through all the processes that have to be done there in the Senate, but it'll be on the president's desk by Monday. And things will be done. And then we can move to the rest of the bag of Oreos, or maybe the other 27,000 bags of Oreos that need to be dealt with in Congress.
Representative Blake Moore called into KSL at night last night as kind of the vote was happening. He had just wrapped up his vote, so he called the show live, and he was feeling, I would say, frustrated about the Republican vote, which was, he said, right around 40 or so against the legislation until they got to the threshold where they knew they were in a safe zone, that it was going to pass. Let's listen to what he told KSL at night.
Here's something funny about this place, and I've said it several times today. I said I'll never understand this place, but it is so predictable. You saw about 40 no votes on the Republican side until the vote total got to 218, and then all of a sudden there were more no votes going for the Republicans. That's a little frustrating because it's like, oh, I'm going to hope yes. I don't want default, but this is a safe place for me to be, and I won't take heed in this in my next primary, and I'm going to vote no after I know that it already passed.
That sounds weak to me, Boyd.
And he's not wrong, and it is predictable. This is what often happens. And often all you have to do if you're – I know Dave doesn't do this, but if you watch C-SPAN, you can sort of watch the leaders of both sides moving around, and there's sort of – we even saw it in the preliminary vote on the rule yesterday. Hakeem Jeffries had a green card, and when they knew that they were going to need those Democratic votes just to get it to the floor, he flashes the green cards. Block of Democratic senators go and vote in an incredible exception. It never happens that the minority party votes for the rule. And they had enough to actually vote for it and get it on. And so it is part of the game. It's part of the politics. It's a sad part of the politics of it all. And actually, in an interesting way, I actually think the Democrats did something smart. They sort of did the reverse of what Representative Moore said. Once they knew it was there, they piled on.
Yeah.
There were more Democrats who voted for a bill put forward by the Republican Speaker of the House than there were Republicans that voted for the bill from the Republican Speaker of the House. And I think that was smart politics for the Democrats because it allowed them to say, we supported the president, we did the right thing, we dealt with the debt ceiling, we put the American people first, and you can see that the Republicans really aren't committed to the American people, and they ran for the doors as soon as they knew the numbers were there.
Democrat Brad Sherman said this. He said, now we are allowed to say it. We rolled them. And I wonder if that's not the message that was being sent as all the Democrats come in and they're supporting it at an incredible rate. I wonder if that's not what we're hearing is you guys got a lot better deal or you're super happy about the deal. And conversely, the Republicans did not negotiate a very favorable deal for themselves.
Yeah, I think there were plenty of things. I don't disagree with what Speaker McCarthy said in terms of some of the wins and some of the things they got out of the negotiations. I think that was an important part. You also have to recognize that the Democrats in the House really had to stand with the president. The president was leaning in heavy. The president was making calls to individual members. He was doing briefings. The president needed this as a win, and the members of the Democratic caucus delivered for the president yesterday.
Senator Mike Lee went on Fox and Friends this morning. Here's what he said as this bill now heads to the Senate.
This thing doesn't do what they claim that it does, and that's my biggest problem with it. And it puts the American people in a very disadvantageous position relative to their government. We need to try to stop it, and we need to try to improve it. And if we can't improve it, go back to the drawing board.
I don't think that Senator Lee is going to have the support to stop it. You know a lot more about D.C. politics than I do.
So what Senator Lee was talking about there, so the senator has offered an amendment to the bill that addresses just one component. So when it comes to those spending caps, as always, you have to read the bill. There is a line in the bill that says that the head of the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, under, I forget the exact language, under measures deemed as critical, can waive the cap. And the head of the CBO said getting President Biden's agenda passed or implemented is critical, and I will use that power to waive the spending cap. So the senator is actually doing an important thing. He's saying, look, this is actually what it says in the bill. We should at least tweak this. If we're going to have a cap and we're going to call it a cap, then it should be a cap and not a sieve. Or not a Matador wave by that, oh, yeah, we have that cap in there, but it's not real because we can waive it whenever we want to get something done for the president. So I think that's a legitimate concern. I think that's a legitimate thing to vote on. I don't know that there's going to be enough support to get that amendment through for sure. I do think one thing in terms of Senator Lee, and we'll see how this plays out today, I actually think he did have a significant impact on the negotiations. And this is something that not talked about a lot, not negotiated a lot, but you remember a couple of months ago, he put forward a letter to the White House and to Senator Schumer with 43 Republicans signed onto it, including the minority leader, Mitch McConnell, saying we will not vote for anything that doesn't do some reform to spending. And that changed everything because remember, the House had already passed their bill.
Right.
The Senate could do nothing because you have to have 60. You have to have 60 to move it forward. And in that letter that included 43 senators plus 2 others who just don't sign letters but were supportive, so 45, it sent the message to the White House, unless you have some reform, there's nothing that Chuck Schumer and the Senate can do. And that's when the negotiations started to change with the White House and with Speaker McCarthy to start including some of those, modest as they may be, but started to change the dynamic in terms of some spending reforms to go with increasing the debt ceiling.
Boyd Matheson, Inside Sources today from 1 to 3 Things.
Thanks so much, Boyd. Straight ahead, we're going to get the KSL 5 I-Team, the investigative team, in-house with us to talk about what happened after they started knocking on a police department's door over a case of rape that had not been investigated. That's next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Dujanovic are asking the tough questions.
Telling you more about stories that were breaking earlier this morning.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Join us weekdays 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
It's a shakeup of the Utah delegation to Washington.
Congressman Chris Stewart deciding to step down. The governor has to announce a special election schedule.
The seat will soon be vacant. This all sets the stage for a special election and new member of Congress. We're updating the story as it happens on KSL News Radio.
Our state's children face a serious threat from the vaping industry. But thanks to state leaders and the Utah Health Department, Utah established the strictest nicotine standards for vaping in the United States to protect our kids. However, the vaping industry sued, claiming their sales and profits are down. Now they're pushing the health department to hand control of vaping regulations to the federal government. We can't allow that to happen. The proposed change would automatically increase nicotine levels in vape pens and reintroduce fruity flavors that entice our kids back into Utah convenience stores. Visit StopKidsVaping.com today and make your voice heard. Utah should maintain state control, preserve our 3% nicotine limitations, and prevent vaping flavors from returning to Utah convenience stores. Together, we can secure a better future for our children. Join us at StopKidsVaping.com and tell the health department, protect our kids.
Paid for by Prosperous Utah Communities.
Text us here in the studio about the weather in your area. The Cypress Credit Union KSL text line is 57500.
Do you have an IRA or 401k? It's natural to think of this as being your money, right? But remember, you still have to pay taxes when you withdraw this money in retirement. And you could be paying a lot more in taxes on these accounts than you know. A lot more. Learn the strategies that can help you reduce or eliminate your taxes in retirement. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, right here on KSL News Radio 1027.
If you've got a honey-do list with electrical, plumbing, heating, or air conditioning projects on it, Any Hour Services can help. Call Any Hour Services, electrical, plumbing, heating, and air. anyhourservices.com.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hi, I'm Ryan Meeks. I have a podcast called The Path of Art, where I talk with creative people about how they're finding success in fields that many people are told not to go into. Listen to some of the things that they had to say.
There's something to be said about just being very tenacious.
I just kept painting and applying to shows and maybe applying to bigger shows.
Don't give up. Don't listen to people who tell you can't do something.
Don't just quit. Find out what that next step's going to be.
If you can channel your fear into optimistic excitement, it changes everything.
A lot of the voices that I've been fighting in my head are voices, are illusions.
People want to follow what they believe is going to happen. And so if you truly are moving in that direction, then it's not so hard to, how am I going to get this person? How am I going to get that? No, you just get moving.
Listen to The Path of Art at kslpodcasts.com or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Join KSL on the Greenhouse Show this Saturday at Weber Basin Water Conservancy District Garden Fair. The district's learning garden is at Highway 89 and 193 in Layton. It's a free event from 8 to 2.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, Utah's senators are split on the new debt ceiling deal. Both want more spending cuts, but only Senator Lee signals that he'll oppose it. Second, Riverdale could be getting a Tesla dealership after the electric auto company expressed interest in a location in Weber County, would be the third in Utah. And third, winter took its toll on Utah's national monuments, including Timpanogos Cave. The trail there is closed until damage can be fixed. Right now, 70 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Such important work the KSL5 investigative team does on a daily basis. And this story now posted at ksltv.com. The headline is, Rape Charges Filed in Once Wrongfully Closed Cases Uncovered by KSL investigators. So a KSL investigation, Dave, revealed it was a failure on the part of police to fully investigate reports of rape against a single suspect.
I don't even remember the officer's name that took my report because it's been so long.
When we sat down with Bailey Steed in January, she was still waiting to hear from the Davis County Sheriff's Office more than 2 years after she reported she was raped by Joshua Homer.
And then you just never heard back? I never heard back.
Isn't it incredible over the years, Debbie, as we've been covering these kind of stories, how often rape charges, rape kits not being processed keeps popping up? It is infuriating to me to hear these stories come out because when it comes to victim advocacy, this is one that I think everyone is on board with, saying this is absolutely abhorrent.
Kara Fairmont, who is a producer on this story, and Daniela Rivera, the reporter, whose voice you just heard, in studio with us right now, both of the KSL5 investigative team. So your reporting has led to the reopening on the part of police at the Davis County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
And has led to charges. Kara.
Yeah. So what happened was we had been talking to victims of this same suspect for a while, and we found 2 of them that had gone to the Davis County Sheriff's Office. They had reported, and they never heard anything again. And through 3 different public record requests, we were finally able to find their reports, and we found that what happened was the case just kind of got dropped. And so we reached out to the Davis County Sheriff's Office. In a statement back to us, they acknowledged that they messed up and the cases were wrongfully closed. They reopened them. That was several months ago. And last week, rape charges were filed, 4 counts of rape, 3 of them from these 2 cases that we discovered.
So what was the victim's experience through this whole thing?
Well, they both went and they shared with law enforcement what had happened to them. They shared their stories, and then they never heard back.
Was this a date rape situation? Was this a stranger?
They are described in the police reports as acquaintance rape scenarios.
Okay. So they filed the report. They investigated, and then the victims heard nothing from that point on?
Beyond the interview with the 2 survivors, the records don't indicate much was done beyond that until we started asking about these cases.
Daniela Rivera, a reporter for KSL5 Television's investigative unit. You can see her regularly on KSL5 TV, and Kara Fairmont, who is the producer of this very important and special report that has been airing over the course of several months on KSL5 TV about failures to protect, failures to investigate cases of rape. Kara, were you able to figure out from your research what took so long? What took a knock at the door from the investigative unit here at KSL5 TV in order for the department, the sheriff's office, to take this matter and finally reopen it?
No. We asked to sit down with the sheriff, and they said he would not be available for an interview. Instead, we got that statement. I would love to ask more questions. There's several other cases that we found in other departments that were just kind of put on the wayside, that weren't investigated. The summer of 2020, there were 6, 7, maybe even 8 cases brought to different jurisdictions in Davis and Weber County, all against the same suspect. And they ended in different places.
Being
pled down, or
none of them ever led to charges.
Interesting.
But now this individual faces some very serious charges, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And of course, in our system, we are innocent until proven guilty. But what this filing of this case means is finally these survivors have a chance at pursuing justice, because what we have heard from them over and over is, with our low sexual assault prosecution rates in Utah, survivors telling us, I feel like no one is willing to try. I feel like no one is willing to just try. Maybe we don't get a conviction, but no one's trying. And so I think in this case, this is a significant step toward trying. Let's go through the process. Let's see what a jury of this individual's peers think about these women and their accusations and what they find when they review the evidence.
So was this a failure of the investigation on the sheriff's office, or was this being pushed up to the district attorney who had decided not to press charges?
So with the two cases that we had identified, those are a situation where those cases, those reports were not fully investigated, never made it to prosecutors. Okay. The third survivor represented in this case had reported her case had been sent to prosecutors, and it was declined at the time, saying there was not enough evidence. And so the Davis County attorney told us, if more evidence presents itself, we're willing to reopen cases we've previously declined. So it's kind of a combo with this case we see now. 3 survivors represented there.
We're speaking live right now to the KSL5 investigative team that has uncovered just a lack of investigation on the part of police, particularly focused right now on the Davis County Sheriff's Office of rape allegations that were brought to police by victims, and then they were closed. These cases were closed. And when the investigative team went knocking to find out why, the cases got reopened, and now the individual who has sits accused of this has been charged with some very serious crimes. This is just me speaking. This is my opinion. And Kira, maybe it was you or Daniela who mentioned that it was acquaintance. They were considered acquaintances in the police report. Am I accurate there?
They knew each other.
So they knew each other. So I'm hopeful that your investigations have shown police departments that just because a woman knows a man or has some sort of a connection, maybe there has been a couple of dates,
messages on social media.
Right. Just because they list them as an acquaintance does not make it so that case is not able to be investigated. Because rapes happen between we have convictions of rapes of people who have said, well, they were an acquaintance of mine, but they did not have the right. They did not have the authorization to do what they did. That's my opinion. I haven't looked at all of the cases you two have looked at and poured over, but I hope this opens up the eyes of police departments to know that you have to go after those cases too, because in some cases, they will end up with enough evidence and charges.
I think it's possible that our societal perception of sexual assault and rape is that stranger jumping out at you from behind a bush when you're walking through a park. And that's just not the majority of these cases. These cases are, they're happening when people meet on a dating app and meet up for the first time. They're happening between classmates, between trusted family friends. And that's the reality that it's hard for us to accept, but that scenario of a stranger jumping out at us is rare.
Lesson learned, Kira?
It is so important, and the experts tell us this, you have to investigate all of these cases. You have to. We know so many of these perpetrators are serial perpetrators. And so every time we don't investigate, there are going to be more victims.
In many cases, it could even empower the perpetrator to keep going because they have eluded a proper investigation. What's your message for victims?
Still, please, police will tell you, come forward, keep track of when you're coming forward, be persistent, fight for yourself. A lot of the survivors that we've talked to will tell you the same thing.
It's a tough ask. It's tough enough to just come forward and say it one time. To have to relive it, to have to follow up, that's not their job. That's supposed to be the job of the investigators and the prosecutors. Not that it's bad advice. I totally understand where you're coming from, but they should be able to say, tell it once, and then let the professionals take over from there. Kira Fairmont and Daniela Rivera from the KSL TV investigative team, thank you.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. Utah blew away the record for skier visits in the season that just ended. Ski Utah says they were up 22% over the previous record, which was set just last year. Record snowfall contributed to the huge number of skier days.
The industry brought in more than $2.5 billion in total revenue. The trade in certain agricultural commodities like livestock or dairy products has declined between the U.S. and China, and that's been a serious problem for Utah dairy farmers. Ron Gibson is president of the Utah Farm Bureau.
He's just struggling like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I can't tell you how many dairies have gone out of business in the last 4 months in the state of Utah. I mean, we're getting real close to 100 dairies in the state now. Just 30 years ago, we had 500.
In 2022, Utah dairy exports to China were 25% compared to the previous year. And tune into Boyd Matheson's Inside Sources, where he and KSL's Hugo Ricard Bell will unpack the full story. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Rescue efforts in Davenport, Iowa, now a recovery effort at the site of the partial building collapse. Officials say there are potentially 3 victims still unaccounted for. Fire Chief Jeffrey Bladel tells reporters 2 of those have been found. Richard Oswald's the Director of Development at the City of Davenport.
At the time and the information we had, based on the engineering reports from Select Structural, there was no cause to think they shouldn't be. So that was why that permit was issued for that repair work to be done.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 192 points on the day so far. The NASDAQ is up 150. And our KSL weather. Another thunderstorm in the offing for this afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
This summer, the political season heats up.
By August, it'll be time for debates. Can you believe it?
We're planning coverage of the real issues, the important stories that impact how we live.
Listen each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
At aimyourdigital.com, we'll help you target the right audience, build your leads, and crush your quota. Take your business to the next level. Our digital marketing strategies help grow awareness of your product or service, all while building trust in your business. Our approach involves leveraging multiple tools and strategies to deliver exceptional results that are customized to your unique business needs. Don't wait to run out of sales leads. Keep your business growing. Get started with aimyourdigital.com today.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be just fine. But you still don't feel confident. Utah's retirement specialist, Capital Wealth Advisors, has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. Take their checklist challenge. If you can check all the boxes on this list with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, the team at Capital Wealth Advisors can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get your copy of this free guide, go to retireutah.com. That's retireutah.com. Firm offers insurance services. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio is your window to the outside world, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio, Utah's all-day companion for news.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union, helping members since 1935. Here's Aubrey Withridge.
Well, right now, if you're traveling on the freeways throughout all the valley right now, it's looking pretty good between Ogden and all the way down to Spanish Fork. I-15 is running smoothly. If you're on Highway 89 up in Davis County, between Oak Hills Drive and Antelope Drive heading northbound, that looks a little bit slow through that area. Not sure what's going on there, but just maybe take an alternate route or give yourself a little extra time to get through that stretch right now. The Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival in Park City features Ben Folds, Leanne Rimes, the Beach Boys, and more. June 30th through August 4th in Park City at deervalleymusicfestival.org. I'm Aubrey Withridge in the KSL Traffic Center.
Our KSL weather, we're expecting another afternoon thunderstorm today with a high about 76 degrees and on the way. We'll be looking for, again, more thunderstorms through the rest of the week. And right now, it's 65 degrees, partly cloudy at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. This is Utah's all-day companion for news.
Eye on the Hill 2023. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, you heard the official announcement from Representative Chris Stewart yesterday, right here on KSL News Radio, that he issued a statement. He plans to resign his position back in D.C. after a, quote, orderly transition. And this is due to his wife's health problems. And this will involve Capitol Hill. Yeah. Utah's Capitol Hill.
There's a lot of layers to this, Debbie, and there's state law in place. It seems like every state has a little bit of a tweak of how it goes exactly if a representative or if a senator steps down, how they replace them specifically. Again, that falls to the states and how they run their elections.
Representative Stewart has 18 months left in his term. Now, we don't know what his last date on the job will be at this point, but great opportunity to speak with Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson about this. And the legislature's role could be to call a special session to fund a special election. Did I get that right, House Speaker Wilson?
Good morning. It's good to be with you two again today. And I appreciate your interest in this topic. And that is, in fact, the case. That's an option. But before I get to that, I just think it's important for all of us to take a minute. Representative Chris Stewart has been a remarkable member of Congress, and he has served for over a dozen years back in D.C. And, I'll tell you, as Speaker of the House here, it is really comforting and reassuring to know that when we have an issue that we need help with in D.C., that we can call leaders like Chris and get their help. He's a good person. He's worked really, really hard for the state. We've been well represented by him, and he's going to leave big shoes to fill. So whenever this process gets fired up, when we have clarity from him on his timeline, it's going to be a daunting task for someone to be able to go back and do the work that he's been doing.
What kind of relationship is that between state legislatures and our federal representatives?
Yeah, we talk probably more than people think or would recognize, because there's so much interaction between what we do here in the state and kind of the needs we have in D.C. And honestly, what a lot of those conversations are is Washington's causing another problem. For the state of Utah, can you please help fix it? And he's been great at that and very effective in that regard to kind of get D.C. out of our way a little bit at times.
If this does land on a special election outside of a regularly scheduled election day, what kind of funding does the legislature need to provide for that, House Speaker?
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of different options, and we're just still working through that based on timing. But if, in fact, we made the decision that it made sense to stand up a separate special election or elections, because you would have a primary and a general in this race, one option would be to do that and fund those. They're not cheap, and you're talking millions of dollars by the time you do that. But we've got to think about the consequence of having 25% of Utah's congressional delegation not seated back in D.C. and the cost to the state of Utah for that is also significant in terms of our ability to have influence back there, especially with the very razor-thin majority that Republicans have in Congress right now.
If I'm remembering right, Taylor Morgan told me about this yesterday, and I don't remember this being the case, but he said several years ago that the way we would replace someone that resigns, it used to be, was it the delegates that selected the replacement? Is that right?
Yeah, there's been there's been some confusion. This has not happened often. I think it's only happened twice in the last 100 years. But now the process will be different. Individuals from both parties can actually say they want to run, and they can declare their candidacy. They, under current statute, could declare with their parties or declare with their parties and gather signatures. And if there's more than two candidates in the race, we'd go to a primary for those parties, and then you'd narrow it down, and you'd have a general election 90 days later, which would make the final determination. So there will be a period of time, regardless of what the legislature decides, where we won't have someone back in D.C. in this seat. And the decision that's going to have to be made is, do we want to make that period of time as short as possible, even if it costs money?
You had mentioned that personally you might have interest in perhaps running for the Senate. Would this be a spot that interests you as well, serving in the House?
Yeah, I've been asked that. I am staying in the lane that I'm in right now, which is exploring a run for the U.S. Senate. There are a lot of people who have already expressed some interest in this congressional seat, and sure we'll hear more names as time progresses. And I think that's good. We want to have lots of good options to choose from, whether it's a special election or not.
House Speaker Brad Wilson on the line with us right now, and he's frequently with us on Thursday mornings about this time, talking about the issues at hand for Capitol Hill here in Utah. And today, the hot topic, of course, is the pending resignation of Chris Stewart, Representative Chris Stewart, who has served us back in Congress for 10 years, actually a little bit more, has a year and a half left on his term. You hinted at, and I don't remember exactly if you said if we want to spend the money on an election, a special election as a state, is there a possibility that the legislature would consider leaving that seat vacant until the next election cycle?
No, that's really not an option. There will be an election to fill this seat. The decision the legislature may face is, do we want to spend money to accelerate the process even faster? And that's what we'll be talking about here over the next few days, probably.
House Speaker Brad Wilson, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate the phone call and checking in with us. Of course, this was a big development this week. It came out of the blue. And Representative Chris Stewart, of course, it probably did not come out of the blue for his family, because he said he needs to resign due to his wife's health, and he will be coming back to Utah to help take care of her.
A very strong message from the speaker, though, saying the option of leaving this seat empty for the next 18 months, he said, that is not something we're interested in. In fact, if there were to be a special session that led to a special election, moving up the timing of the elections, it would be so that we could get it done in a more timely fashion, in a quicker manner, because, again, for the House of Representatives, these happen every 2 years. This is not the Senate that is possibly 6 years out, every 6 years. These elections happen quickly. So when you start including a primary as well as a general, this is going to be an incredibly truncated timeline that they're going to have to deal with.
Next, let's talk about you need to stop blaming Californians for Utah's growth, Dave. You need to stop.
Don't tell me what to do. I will blame California till the cows come home. There's no cows in California, by the way.
Folks are coming from plenty of other states. I'll break it down for you next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Enjoy Jeff Kaplan later today driving home.
He'll have important news updates like you'd expect.
Plus Jeff's trademark Minute of News twice an hour.
Try him today between 3 and 7 on KSL News Radio.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business.
Just over a year ago, Real Salt Lake was rejuvenated when David Blitzer and Utah's own Ryan Smith purchased the club. RSL President John Kimball tells us more.
In Utah, soccer has long been one of the great cultural unifiers in our community. With picturesque views from America First Field in Sandy or Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman, advertising Utah's stunning beauty and showcasing our exceptional backyards to viewers all over the world. Founded by Dave Checketts, expanded by Deloy Hansen, and now inspired by the Blitzer-Smith partnership to steward this community asset, Real Salt Lake creates local, national, and international connections to Utah. With 19 consecutive sellout crowds during the last 2 seasons, fans are our life's blood. Meanwhile, innovative entrepreneurs and blue-chip businesses across the region partner with our teams, venues, and players to connect deeply with the community and achieve their goals. In addition to promoting Utah companies, we're working hard to save the Great Salt Lake, stock local school food pantries, and collaborate with value partners to enhance lives across Utah and beyond.
The World Cup arrives in North America in 3 years, and Utah's soccer teams and facilities will connect us to this incredible event. For more information, visit realsaltlake.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Did you know you can get someone to shop for you? Stitch Fix really gets me in what I need. Even better, they save me a trip to the mall. It's easy. I share my style, size, and budget, and they do the shopping for me. Stitch Fix sends me things that fit and make me feel like a more stylish version of myself. I keep what works and send back the rest. No subscription required, no commitment, just my style. Stitch Fix. Get started today at stitchfix.com/radio.
Hey, losing weight, it can be a tricky process for a lot of people. It's a big struggle, and we know the challenge with everyone. That's why Soda Weight Loss is so incredible, because it's a program that's based on science. If you follow the program, you will drop those unwanted fat pounds. Guys drop 3 to 5 pounds a week. Women drop 2 to 3 pounds, and it's simply by following the program. It's all about nutrition if you want to drop that weight, and it's healthy. It's specifically designed for you. You're going to work with a nutritionist that will work with you. They've had over 5,000 people on their website who have had tremendous success. I've had tremendous success. Alex has had tremendous success. A lot of people here in our radio group have just done remarkable, and you can too. It's that simple. You're going to have someone you're accountable to, who you check in with, and it's not just about losing it. It's about keeping it off after. It's a lifetime commitment, a lifetime program. You can get healthy, I promise you. Check out sodaweightloss.com.
I found, Tim, that one of the hardest things about being a mom is just deciding what to cook for dinner every night.
I know.
Which is part of why I'm so excited to tell everybody about Beehive Meals.
It is a Utah company, and at some point we're going to have to tell the story of the Jacksons and how they actually got this going in 2019. But if you've been struggling with having tacos one night and spaghetti another night, open up your world for dinner with things like Mongolian beef stir fry or Parmesan honey pork roast.
Your family dinner has just never been easier than it is with these. They're pre-assembled freezer meals. I put it in the crock pot. I set it for how long it needs to go. It stays warm after that. And that way, if the family can't all eat together, if one person has basketball and another, it's just warm for whenever they're ready.
And by the way, less than $3.50 per serving. You couldn't go out to the store or out to dinner, certainly on your own, for that price.
You're absolutely right, Tim. I couldn't buy the ingredients for any less.
Start it for your family right now. Go to beehivemeals.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, Utah set new records for skier days as well as for snowfall in the season that's just ending. Second, Utah's not sending as much milk to China as it has in past years. That's forced some farmers out of business. Third, the rescue operation at the site of a collapsed building in Davenport, Iowa, has turned now into a recovery operation, though 2 more bodies have been found in the past day. 65 degrees right now and partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Oh, you can't just blame Californians.
The Californians.
That's right. A new report outlines who is moving to Utah from which states. Let's talk about it.
First of all, do not tell me I can't blame the Californians. I absolutely can blame the Californians.
The Californians.
you got to take the 5 down to the PCH over to the thing, and then go over onto Lincoln.
You blame Californians.
Basically, in all things. Okay, it may be a little passive aggressive because I hate the Lakers. It may have something to do with that, but no, I just assumed that because we are growing at such a pace, like as fast as any state in the entire country. That's what the latest census said. That Utah is just percentage-wise growing the fastest growing state out there. And I guess anecdotally, I've met a lot of Californians that have moved here. I just assumed it was all their fault.
Kem C. Gardner, Policy Institute at the University of Utah, outlines it really nicely and gives us the numbers. Would you be surprised to know that we had some 3,900 people moving from Clark County, that's Las Vegas, Nevada, to Utah over a 4-year span?
Vegas is number one?
Then Maricopa County.
That's your hometown.
Arizona, 3,730 people. Then comes LA County at 3,714 people. And then you've got King County, Washington. Isn't that where Seattle is?
No idea.
Well, you know where Madison County, Idaho is?
Yeah, that's where Sugar City is.
And Rexburg. Almost 2,100 people moving from that area to Utah. Emily Harris, senior demographer at the Kem C. Gardner Policy Institute. What time span were you looking at when you did this analysis?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
I just wondered what time span you were looking at when you did this analysis of how many people from other states were moving to Utah or other counties.
Yeah. So this is data looking from 2015 to 2019. So those numbers you're referring to are actually the number of people moving every year in that time span. So
each year.
Each year. So it's kind of like an average number each year in that time span. Yeah. So a lot of people are moving into Utah from these counties. And, as the paper details, there are also a lot of people moving out of Utah to some of these places as well.
So were any of these surprises?
No. I mean, Vegas, Phoenix, Seattle, the Rexburg, that's where BYU Idaho is. All of these make sense culturally. They make sense with just kind of cultural ties that we have to these areas. But this is why we wanted to look at county-level data, because, again, when you're talking about state-level results, California is going to dominate those results merely because California is huge.
Yeah.
So being able to drill down to the county level gives us more detail and more understanding of really where a lot of these people are going. And it also are coming from, and it also gives us an idea of where exactly those people are moving into within the state. We know they're coming into Utah, but what counties are they moving into? And what this paper allowed us to do was really look at the different touch points and gateway communities for some of these migrants. And additionally, we're also able to say, well, which of these counties, are just maybe receiving a lot of migrants from another county within the state. So some counties receive a lot of migrants from out of the state, but some counties receive a lot of migrants, but they might just be moving from Salt Lake County or moving from Utah County. So there's a lot of different dynamics at play when we're thinking about the movement of people at the county level.
Oh, yeah. That really stands out to me. I want to know if people are coming from Vegas, if they're coming from Phoenix, they're coming from LA, where are they moving to Utah? Are they going southern Utah, Salt Lake County, Davis County? Do you break that down?
Yeah, so we actually have regional profiles where a region can look at their specific area and see where people are moving into in those specific counties. And it's really nice because, again, like kind of as UTs, some of the geographic ties to Washington County are going to be different than Salt Lake County or even Cache County and Box Elder. So really being able to examine that is important. I mean, the Wasatch Front is definitely like the gateway to Utah in general. That's where, 3/4 of the population lives. But again, like places like Washington County or even, you know, like I said, Cache, have different ties. So Washington County has a lot more of those California and Arizona ties rather than, you know, Salt Lake kind of attracts people from all over the United States, not just the West.
Emily Harris is a senior demographer at Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute at the University of Utah. Fascinating research on where people are migrating from, which states they're coming from, which counties they're coming from. Top of the list was Clark County, which is Las Vegas, and then Maricopa County, which is where I came from many years ago, from the Phoenix area. And then LA County, King County in Washington, and then Madison County, better known as a place where Rexburg, Idaho is. Emily, you also mentioned that your data shows where people are moving to when they leave Utah. Can you just share a couple of nuggets with us? I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, when we're looking at where people are landing, you know, a lot of people are landing in Salt Lake County, in Utah County, but we do, especially if we're looking at out-of-state migrants, we do have a lot of people also moving into Davis and then Washington County and also Cache County, which makes sense. We've got USU there, so it kind of has that draw of bringing in people from out of state, probably to attend the university or work there as well. And again, you know, there are other places that bring in people, such as like Summit County and Iron County as well. But again, like so much of the out-of-state gateway counties are going to be Utah County and Salt Lake for sure.
Is there a hot county for in-state migration?
You know, it's interesting. There actually is. So, you know, Utah County attracts a lot of people both from out of state and also from in-state. But one of the kind of sleeper counties that we didn't really think about, though it makes sense when we looked at the results, was Tooele County. So Tooele County attracts a lot of people from particularly Salt Lake County. And so they have a really high in-migration just from in-state. You know, they don't attract a lot of people from out of state, but when you're looking at the in-state dynamics, they really receive a lot of, like, Salt Lake County migrants in particular. And Salt Lake County just has a lot of migrants, so it really bumps Tooele up to the top of the list.
Emily Harris, thank you for this research, senior demographer at Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute.
So Tooele County is the undiscovered gem for people who live out of state. They can't even say the word.
Well, yeah.
They can't say the word, so they don't know to go visit and check it out. But housing prices traditionally less expensive. It takes you off of the Wasatch Front just far enough where you can still commute back and forth to work if you need to. Also, as people are staying home to work more and more, I think that Tooele offers some great options there as well for people to work from home.
Yeah, when we went out there for KSL in the community, we went out, was it to Grantsville? Mm-hmm. We've been out there a couple different times, but it was a different experience. When we were leaving Salt Lake, the way the homes are built, there are not large areas that haven't been developed. You go out to Tooele, you've got some very large areas where you could build new homes, big lots, large yards. Not that I want a large yard anymore, but
You're welcome, Tooele. We're all moving up out there. We're packing up this weekend, and here we come.
Yeah, it surprises me. I mean, that's where the highest migration is from in-state. The in-state migration, folks are realizing, well, you know what? 30 minutes to Tooele is not that far from downtown Salt Lake.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, Utah's all-day companion for news.
Good afternoon. KSL News Time is 12 noon. I'm Lindsay Ertz in for Maria Chaleos today. Today is Thursday, June 1st. And KSL's top story this hour, a bat has tested positive for rabies in Salt Lake City. KSL News Radio's Becky Bruce has what you need to know.
First, it's important to note that rabies is rare, even among bats, and most of the time healthy bats steer clear of humans. But rabid bats might be more likely to approach or be approachable, and their bites or scratches can often go unnoticed because they're so small. Plus, the only way to know an animal has rabies is posthumous testing. So the Salt Lake County Health Department says you should avoid all wild animals